Welcome, everybody. So glad to have you here tonight. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Sorry for the short delay. Took a little longer at the gym than I intended to. It was a weights day. That's okay. I'm back home in my lovely Brooklyn apartment, and I'm ready to have a great conversation with all of you. It's going to be awesome tonight. I was preparing things, getting everything ready. So, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, everybody. So glad to have you with us. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. We're going to have a great conversation here tonight. We do appreciate it if you tweet this out and share it with all your friends. And I'll post this in Facebook groups and Instagram chats. And, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. It'd really be awesome to have more and more people here and bring all your friends. And yeah, we're going to have a great conversation tonight. So for those of you who may not be familiar with the way that we do things here tonight, I generally give opening remarks. That's like the first half of the show. Those are things that I want to talk about. Got a few things I want to talk about here tonight. Then after that, we do the roll call. And then the second half of the show is just me answering super chat questions. So if there's something you want me to talk about in the second half of the show, by all means, send me a super chat and I will write it down and then I will answer them in order that they came in the second half of the show. That's generally how it works. So if there's something you want me to talk about in the second half of the show, just write it down and we'll go from there. So glad, so glad to have you all here tonight. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. Make sure that you hit the subscription button because they are doing weird shit where they unsubscribe people. The Silicon Valley fascists are not our friends. Just a few quick business announcements. Business announcement number one is that the Center for Political Innovation, the CPI, we are functioning. We are in business. And on March 25th and 26th in Washington, D.C., we're having a conference. Details about that to be confirmed shortly. If you want to be involved in our activities, by all means, become a member of the Center for Political Innovation. We've got a good crew of people that are members, dues-paying members. We have a Zoom call weekly to keep up with the membership. We have various committees that are meeting. Elizabeth is teaching people public speaking and doing public speaking workshops. We also have an innovation committee. We're doing great stuff with people. So if you want to be part of the Center for Political Innovation, participate in our activities, just join. We are now officially listed on the website of Rage Against the War Machine. We are officially listed as sponsors of the upcoming anti-war demonstration. We are officially listed as sponsors. We are on the website. If you go to rageagainstthewarmachine.com, dropping the link in the chat to where it says coalition, we are listed along with various libertarian groups and other anti-war organizations. We are listed as official sponsors of Rage Against the War Machine. That's going to be in DC on February 19th. So a lot's going to be happening in DC in the coming weeks. It's going to be awesome. So if you are interested in participating, by all means, become a dues-paying member of the Center for Political Innovation. And then the next thing, just throwing this out there, if you want to support this YouTube channel and the work that we do here on YouTube and, the message that we're putting out, if you want to have access to patrons-only streams, which we're doing a lot more of than we used to, by all means, and I tend to send the books to folks on the Patreon as well, join on the Patreon. We'd love to have your support on Patreon as well. So that's a way you can support the work that we're doing here. But yeah, folks, I got a few things I want to talk to you about in the opening remarks for tonight. A few things, because, one of them's a current event, one of them's a historical event, but then it relates to something that I think, needs to be said about some online stuff. So let's start off, first of all, Kim Iverson. I really like her show. I really like Kim Iverson's show. She's a little bit of a conservative sometimes, but she's a critic of the endless wars. She's a critic of the government, and she actually did a really, really good segment. I didn't know what this segment was going to be. I saw the video and the headline on the video, and I thought it said, "Unbelievable, Democrat critics raided by FBI accused of being Russian agents." And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Well, this is the segment that she ran. I'm going to show you the first little bit of it, because I am so glad that she ran this segment. I mean, I am overjoyed that she ran this segment. Take a look at this.
This week, journalist Matt Taibbi exposed in the latest Twitter Files drop a shocking truth about the manipulation by Democrats to create a narrative of Russian interference, even when they're told over and over there was no evidence of their claims. Essentially, what we've learned is Democrats and the mainstream media have gaslit the American public into believing there's a greater threat of Russian misinformation than there actually is. This has led to grave consequences for many Americans. Many have been subjected to social media censorship and a violation of their First Amendment rights. Some are labeled as Russian assets and demonized. And worse, some face being investigated, raided by the FBI, and threatened with indictments by the Department of Justice. Many people believe this is only happening to right-wing Trump supporters, but in reality, it seems to be happening to anyone who's against Democrats' agenda. For Chairman Omali Yeshitela, the members of the Uhuru Movement and the African People's Socialist Party, this is not just a theoretical threat. They say they were the targets of a terrifying early morning FBI raid in which their homes were stormed by flash grenades, drones, armored tanks, and armed FBI agents. Now they're facing the possibility of being indicted by the DOJ. For what? Well, apparently for being Russian agents. Just so you understand the absurdity of this claim, let me tell you a little bit about them. The Uhuru Movement, established in 1972, is led by the African People's Socialist Party. Their political theory, African internationalism, asserts that capitalism is a form of imperialism that exploits the African people. The movement advocates for the release of African prisoners in the U.S., which they refer to as concentration camps, and views U.S. police forces as an illegitimate standing army. In the 90s, the group frequently protested against police brutality towards African Americans. In 2008, they interrupted Barack Obama during a town hall meeting and questioned him on issues affecting the African community, such as police brutality, high unemployment, predatory lending, and Hurricane Katrina. The group has been criticized by the Anti-Defamation League for being anti-Israel and anti-Zionist. So you can see this group has a long history of protesting and speaking up against various U.S. policies. Their angst is nothing new, and it's not newly directed towards Democrats. And even though this group has been around protesting for over 50 years, they're now being accused of sowing division in American life and accused of being directed by Russia. Joining us now is chairman of the organization.
So awesome. That's Chairman Omali of the African People's Socialist Party. She had him on. Kim Iverson had her on her show. That is so awesome. This is great, this is awesome. This is how things are developing, right? Where there's a layer of people that are against the deep state and what it's doing. And Kim Iverson had Chairman Omali on her show. This is awesome.
And Omali Yeshitela. Chairman, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so very much for having us.
So I want to start with the raid that happened on your house back in July. Tell us what happened and what was the justification by the FBI to raid your home in this way?
Well, my wife and I were up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Because we have a program that we had initiated training African women to be doulas. St. Louis, you may know, is a city where enough African babies or black babies die in the first year of life to fill 14 kindergarten classrooms. So we initiated this, one of the programs that of the 50 or more programs we've initiated dealing with this question. And she was preparing because that morning the training was to begin for the doulas. And so we were sitting around talking, and out of the dark, this racket hit us. At first, it was someone on a loudspeaker commanding whomever was in this house to come out with your hands up and nothing in your hands. And then immediately these grenades, flashbang grenades, began to go off. Actually, one of them in the rear stairwell of our home. And they throughout the neighborhood, these bangings were happening. So I went downstairs and asked my wife to wait and call people and tell them we were being attacked. I get downstairs and I'm confronted with this array, a military forces. These were military forces wearing flak jackets and carrying assault weapons, and the assault weapons were mounted with laser targeting beams that were bouncing off my chest when I came downstairs. My wife couldn't reach anybody because they had jammed our phones. So when she came downstairs following me, she was nearly hit in the face when she opened the door by a drone that they had sent up the stairwell going into our home. When we get outside, I'm questioning them, what is going on? Why are you doing this? They zip tie me behind my back. When my wife gets downstairs, they put handcuffs on her behind her back. And then they said that because of my persistent questioning, they said they were there because they were serving a search warrant because a Russian national was going to be indicted later that day in Tampa, Florida. And so I asked to see the search warrant. They said, well, we don't have it right now, but it's somewhere around. And then let me see the indictment. They said, well, they can't show you that because that's going to be later today when the indictment occurs. And so they took my cell phone, took my wife's cell phone. They went into our home. They knocked down doors. They stole computers and iPads and the like. At the same time, they were doing this in North St. Louis, which is the most impoverished sector of the city. And I live on one of the most impoverished streets in that city. At the same time they were doing this, they went across town and then they attacked the center that we have there that's mostly in the white community, organized by white people, run by white people who work in the white community to win unity between the white community and the struggles that black people are involved in for reparations and etc. They used battering rams. They knocked down the doors there. They went to the apartment upstairs. They held a young couple at gunpoint, one of whom, Jesse Neville, is considered an unindicted co-conspirator, as I am. They went then to the home of Penny Hess, another so-called unindicted co-conspirator, and her roommate. They attacked the house. They knocked down doors, windows. They went to St. Petersburg, Florida, where there's an Uhuru house there as well. They knocked the doors down. They took our radio station briefly off the air. And scores of FBI agents, armed FBI agents invaded. They raided the place. They stole all kinds of documents and electronic devices that they went into our archives with 40 or 50 years of archived materials of the struggle of black people, and we don't know how much they took there. And then they went to the home in St. Petersburg. They used the St. Petersburg, Florida Police Department to knock on the door of this young woman. Her name is Eritha Akile Kenyon. They went to her home, knocked on the door, and told her, the police, that someone is breaking into your car. You need to come out and investigate this. They got her outside. When they got her outside, then FBI agents come from everywhere. They surround her. They steal her cell phone. They attempted to interrogate her on the spot, and more or less that's what's happening. So what we learned later is that the FBI again has indicted this man in Russia, and they said that I was an agent of the Russians. That I went to Moscow. Attended a conference in Moscow, invited there by a non-governmental organization to be on this conference for people from all around the world who were dealing with the question of self-determination. So they said, I did this and became, or either was when it happened, or became at that time, or later on, some agent for Russia. They are convinced this is the case, they said, because we also ran elections, campaigned in St. Petersburg, Florida in 2017 and 2019. We were raising the question of reparations to black people. We were raising the question of black community control of the police that were killing us all around the country as they are today.
All right. So, I just wanted you all to hear him describing the raid on his house and what was done and how this group of black revolutionary activists were targeted this way when it was dark outside, 5 a.m, storming into their house with drones and weapons, dragging them away, handcuffing them and all of that. This is a pretty serious situation, in the name of alleging that this group of black activists are working for Russia. The U.S. government, terrorized them this way, and they are currently expecting that they will be indicted with some kind of crime. That's what they are expecting. This is very, very, very serious. And this is the kind of thing that we talk about on these streams. At our conference, at the Center for Political Innovation Conference in Chicago, we gave a platform to the Uhuru Movement. They got up on our stage, they spoke, they were our honored guests. We celebrated them, and they were honored guests there. We stand in solidarity. There's a group of black revolutionaries being targeted by the U.S. government because they are anti-imperialist, because they stand with Russia in this Ukraine, debacle. And because of that, we stood with them because we are serious. When it matters, we are on the side of the oppressed. We are against this. And you'll notice that all these various woke people, all these people that claim they love Fred Hampton, they're not saying anything about it. But I want to, at risk, I think this picture is okay, right? But it's a little bit of a risk for me to put this on here. If they block my stream for this, I don't know what I'll do, but I think it's okay. This is a very famous photograph from American history. And I think I can get away with showing it on here. And many of you have probably seen this photo before. It's a very famous photograph. You ever see that photo before? Have folks ever seen that photograph? It's a very famous photograph. It's photographed from May 4th of 1970. And this was at Kent State University. And Kent State University is a small liberal college in Ohio. It's a small liberal, college. It's not even really it's a state school. I wouldn't call it liberal. It's just a small college in Ohio. And just like many, many other colleges around the country, when people found out that the Vietnam War had expanded to Cambodia, there were a lot of protests that went on. The students were very angry. Many young people were being drafted to fight in the Vietnam War. I actually wrote about this in my recent book. I have an article, that I wrote about, kind of summarizing the Kent State Massacre for the anniversary. But yeah, it was May 4th, 1970, and a number of students were protesting against expanding the U.S. war to Cambodia. They were protesting, and there was some vandalism. A building got destroyed, like a military recruiting building got destroyed. So they sent the National Guard, the military, to the college, and they put the college under martial law. And the students were, their college was like occupied by the military. But every day they would have anti-war protests to counter the military. So one day, the National Guard just opened fire into the crowd and killed 4 college students. Killed them and just murdered them. And the students that were protesting did not have any weapons. They didn't have guns. They didn't have any. They were like 90 feet away from the soldiers. They were just protesting. And the National Guard opened fire on them and killed them in Kent, Ohio. And it was the Kent State Massacre. And there was 4 students that were killed. There were a number of people who, were shot through the hand or shot in the back. There was somebody who was disabled for life. He was in a wheelchair for life. It was a horrendous incident. And a couple days later, there were students at Jackson State University in Mississippi who were protesting, and the police opened fire and killed 2 of them. But that was May 4th, 1970. And I grew up very close to Kent, Ohio. I grew up in a small town in the area. I was about 15, maybe 25 minutes away from Kent, Ohio, right? And I was a kid, and I was a kid in the 90s, right? So I was a kid like 30 years after this happened. But every year around May 1st, May 2nd, May 3rd, I would start to hear my teachers and my class, my classmates' parents and old people always would try to say that these young students deserved to die. I would hear it constantly. I would constantly hear when I was a kid that they deserved to die because they were disrespecting our troops. They were disrespecting the military. They were against America, and they deserved to die. I heard this every year, all my whole life in my little town. All the boomers who had grown up down around then and were, angry and upset about it. I would hear as a kid, from the time I was in elementary school, it was a small age, up until high school, I would always hear that these students deserved to die. Now, that young man who's dead there, that his body is there, that's Jeffrey Miller. And Jeffrey Miller was from Brooklyn, New York. He grew up in Brooklyn, and he went to Kent, Ohio to study, and he went to the anti-war protest, and they shot him. The other woman, who was shot at the protest, right? There was another young woman who was protesting. Her name was Allison Krauss, and she was shot at the protest as well. There were two other students who were killed, and they weren't protesters. They were hit by stray bullets. They weren't part of the protest. But every year I would hear about how, Jeffrey Miller and Allison Krauss, they were disrespecting our troops. They were disrespecting America. They deserved to die. The anti-war protesters were disgusting, unpatriotic, anti-American, drug-using hippies who, and they needed to be killed. They should have shot more of them. I heard this my whole life. I heard this, right? I heard this constantly, and it was just constantly told to me that these young people deserve to die. One thing that was particularly vulgar is that Allison Krauss, now this is Jeffrey Miller, he was the young man who was protesting, was shot. Allison Krauss was, she was from the Ohio area, and she was a young woman who was an activist. Yes, no relation to Allison Krauss, the country musician. She was shot, and I would always hear people talk about how Allison Krauss, she deserved it. She was a slut. She said she would sleep with anyone who wouldn't fight in Vietnam, stuff like that. And they would always just try to say it was okay. It was okay. They deserved to die because they were leftists and they were criticizing U.S. foreign policy. They were against America or whatever, and they deserved to die. And I heard that over and over and over again, And, it's funny because there's a lot of people who ask me why I became a communist. And the answer I generally give people is I talk about, my mom was a librarian and she went on strike. And when I was a kid, I learned what a union was and stuff. But I got to say that picture and growing up in the environment, hearing people just constantly say they deserve to die because they were disrespecting America, I think that seeing how evil U.S. imperialism can really be. Not only did they kill millions and millions of people in Vietnam, but then when some young college students went out to protest and oppose it, they murdered them, and then, all these people think, well, they deserved it because they were disrespecting America. They were criticizing the government. They deserved it, Hearing that's what U.S. imperialism really is. I mean, you just heard about how they're pointing guns in the faces of black revolutionaries, terrorizing a group of black revolutionaries because of their anti-war stance, and they're opposing the U.S. wars. You see what they did at Kent State University. They massacred these young people. I've always been very, very serious about what we do here, right? And we can stop showing that photo, but I've always been very, very serious about this. I take this really seriously. And that is why I risked my life on a ship trying to bring medical aid to the people of Yemen. And that's why I worked with Ramsey Clark, the former U.S. Attorney General, who became an anti-war activist and was the lawyer of Saddam Hussein. And that's why I got arrested in protests. And that's why I work in anti-imperialist media. I work with RT now. I worked with Press TV from Iran before that. I take this seriously. I take this seriously, and I am committed to standing up to these people. And, you know, when I see what they've done to the Uhuru movement, I support the Uhuru movement. When I see what they did to the Vietnamese people, I support the people of Vietnam. When I see what they do all over the world to the Palestinians, what they've doing to the people of Yemen right now, and they're doing to the people of Donbass, let's show another photo that mainstream media won't show us. Right? Let's show another photo. Let me pull up the photo that they'll never show us on mainstream media that needs to be shown. This is another photo, right? Here's a photo that mainstream media, I've showed it to you all many times, but it needs to be shown again. These are all the children in Donbass who've been killed over the past 8 years. For 8 years, the government of Ukraine, the US-backed Kiev government, has been bombing and murdering the people of Donbass, the people of Donetsk, the people of Lugansk, and they've been pouring more and more money into them, into the Kiev government, and it's been slaughtering these people. And they've been hiding in their basements for 8 years. These are all the children. These are the children under the age of 12 who've been murdered by the American government and by the Kiev government and by Zelensky. These are all the people these are all the children Zelensky has killed. And he thinks they're his own people, right? He thinks that that's what they're fighting over. Those regions have voted to break with the government that's been slaughtering them for years. And now, Russia is moving in to protect them at this point. And they've been slaughtering them. And nobody cares about these people. There's all this grandstanding. Oh, my God, pray for the children of Ukraine and all that. What about these people? 8 years. 8 years they've been killing these people. These children have been dying for 8 years, and no one cares about them because CNN didn't tell them to, because Fox News didn't tell them to, because MSNBC didn't tell them to. These children don't care. They don't matter, right? Just like they said that the students at Kent State University deserved to die, just like no one's talking about the Uhuru movement. No one is talking about the children of Donetsk. No one is talking about the children of Lugansk, right? And that is why I do what I do. I know who the greatest mass murderers and killers in the world are. It's U.S. imperialism. It's Wall Street and London. They are the biggest mass murderers and terrorists and killers in the world. They've killed millions of people in Vietnam. They killed millions of people on the Korean Peninsula. They killed millions of people in Iraq based on the lie of weapons of mass destruction. They have barricaded Cuba and prevented people, from getting medical equipment, and they've barricaded Cuba and waged a war against the Cuban people. They sent terrorists and Contras to Nicaragua and El Salvador, and you wonder why there's all these drug gangs in Latin America. It's because American weapons have been flowing down there to fight against communism for decade after decade after decade. They've killed millions of people. They killed millions of people in the Philippines. They've killed, there is not a corner of this world where they've not backed ugly coups and massacres, where they've not been torturing people and slaughtering people, and nobody cares about them. Nobody cares about them because it's not trending, right? Nobody cares about them because it's not cool, because mainstream media and Twitter and Facebook didn't tell them to care about them. I'm in this because I'm serious. I'm serious. And I got to say, that is why I am so angry. I am so angry about stuff like this. Well, I'm not going to show it to you yet. I'm just going to say this. It was knowing about stuff like this that made me a socialist, that made me a revolutionary Marxist and an anti-imperialist. I knew that in Vietnam, the Vietnamese people fighting for their National Liberation Front were the good guys, and that Wall Street and the Pentagon were the bad guys. And I knew that in Nicaragua, the people of Nicaragua and the Sandinistas were the good guys, and Wall Street and the Contras, they were the bad guys. And I knew that in Iraq, it was their country, and the Iraqi people had the right to fight back and protect their country after the U.S. imperialists invaded and attacked. And I am with the people of the world resisting this horrendous monster called U.S. imperialism. And I am, very proud of the work that I do working with RT. I'm very proud of the work I've done with Press TV. I'm very proud to have articles published on china.org.cn. I'm very proud of any anti-imperialist work, having gone to Venezuela and Nicaragua and stood with the people there. I am against U.S. imperialism. I am against the system of monopoly capitalism that is grinding countries around the world into poverty, that is murdering people all over the world. I am on the side of the people, and I'm against Wall Street imperialism. And I'm very serious about it. And I've dedicated my life to trying not just to yell about it on YouTube and not just to make, news reports and write articles and books about it, but to actually build an organization. Because I believe that not only is this system that is murdering people all over the world bad for the people of the world, it's also bad for America. It's bad for the working families of this country. I think about all the communities in this country that don't have proper drinking water, the highways and bridges that are falling apart. I think about all the people in America who don't have the health care that they need, who, lose their homes, lose their cars because of medical debt. I think about all of that, and I think about how the American people, we have been ripped off and lied to. They've told us that all these wars and the big global system, what they call globalism, capitalism and its monopoly stage of imperialism, they've told us that, oh, this is good. This is good for us. We're beneficiaries. We are not beneficiaries. We have a low life expectancy. Living conditions are getting worse. The diseases of despair, the suicide rate, the opioid epidemic, they're destroying our country as well. This evil system of capitalism and its monopoly stage, imperialism, this evil system is destroying the whole world. And it's in a meltdown right now. It's in a meltdown right now. And what we need more than anything is an anti-imperialist movement in America. That's what we need. We need an anti-imperialist movement in America. And it's not easy, All right. It's not easy to build an organization. It's risky. It's very easy to just shout on the internet. It's very easy to just be angry at the world, but we need to build a community of solidarity. We need to build an organization that can actually bring people together and resist all of this. We need to bring people together and build a real community of resistance. There needs to be people like us. There needs to be people like us who support each other and protect each other and help lift up each other's voices. We need to build a community. We need to build a community around these ideas. And I'm committed to that. I'm very, very, very committed to doing that. I am very, very committed to doing that. This isn't just a form of online entertainment. This is something that needs to be done. There needs to be anti-imperialist communities and a movement of solidarity and anti-imperialism and socialism here in America. And that is why the fact that I have made so many sacrifices for this. My family, there's relatives I have who don't talk to me. My family is not, my family's never really been supportive of my career or the work that I do. They're not thrilled with who their son grew up into being. I've lost friends. I've had political repression in my life. I won't go into detail about. A lot of things have happened to me because of this, but this is what I believe in. This is the stance that I'm going to take. I am fully committed to this. And yes, I will meet with anybody. I will meet with anyone who is standing against U.S. imperialism. I will meet with Alexander Dugin. I will meet with the Iranian Ayatollahs and Khamenei. I've been in the same room as the supreme leader of Iran. And that's what you do. If you're up against a monster so evil as U.S. imperialism, you do that. Right? It's your duty to do that, to unite with whoever can be united with in order to defeat a great enemy. I take this seriously, and I'm committed to building a real organization. I know that there are people here in America who can understand, and if there's ever been a time for us to build a community of resistance to what U.S. imperialism is doing, it's now. It's now. If there's ever been a time, it's now. When the economy is falling apart, when anti-war sentiments are through the roof, we need to do this, and we need to do it right so we win. And I take this really, really seriously. And that is why I am so sick and tired. I am so sick and tired of crap like this. I really have very little tolerance for this.
Spooky, scary socialists shall seize the sovereign state. Working fools will shock your soul, seal your class's fate. Spooky, scary socialists in solidarity. Marxists marching on and on, together can't be beat.
Sorry about this, capitalist, you have had your fun. Now it's time to socialize the means of production.
The spooky, scary socialists shall workers all unite. We come together, raise our fists and demonstrate our might.
How should we split up all this Halloween candy? We must erect a central governing body to distribute it as needed to the masses.
No way! The people should have free and open access to all candy.
Without the vanguard, how will we prevent counter-revolution?
Who the hell are these people? Who the hell are these people? It infuriates me. My whole life, I've been advocating socialism. I've been promoting socialism. I've been taking anti-imperialist stances because I'm serious about it, because it needs to be done, right? And it didn't used to be cool to be a socialist. I'll tell you that much. The amount of, my God, didn't used to be trendy or hip to be a leftist or be a socialist. It used to be quite unpopular. When I was in college, I did work around police brutality. I would go to court with police brutality victims, and I would tell people at my mostly white kind of conservative college in the Cleveland suburbs, I would tell them about it. And they'd say, that's not true. There's no such thing as police brutality. My uncle's a cop. He said that police brutality doesn't happen. And, black people just say that because they want money from the government, and I was taking serious stances, and I was going to demonstrations, and you can read about me. They wrote articles about the fact that I video recorded. I'll send you, this is an article that was about me in Cleveland Scene magazine, right? They published an article, The Communist Next Door, about how I video recorded an act of police brutality. And the victim of this act of police brutality got acquitted in court because of my video. And I was heavily involved in the struggle against police brutality back in 2010, before it was cool, before it was all over television, before it was trendy and hip. I was talking. Go and read this article. I've got receipts. This is in the mainstream bourgeois press. They were talking about Caleb, the communist next door in Cleveland, who was videotaping acts of police brutality against African-American high school students and exposing them, right? My record. I have been doing this stuff my whole adult life. I'm 35 years old. From the time I was under 18 to now, I have been trying my hardest to promote socialism, reading and studying Marxism, trying to build Marxist organizations. And I take this seriously, and I've made great sacrifices for it. I have been arrested, I have been intimidated, I have lost relationships, I have suffered for this. And I have risked my life internationally. I have taken this seriously. Where did this trash come from? Where did this garbage come from? I have been here my whole life doing this, and this garbage just appears out of nowhere. And these people, it's all about puppets, and it's all silly. And of course, they don't support the people of Cuba. They don't support the people of Venezuela. They don't support the people of Donbass. They're not talking about the Alley of Angels. It's just all just fun game. It's all just a big fun game to them. And of course, they call me a Nazi. How am I a Nazi? I was protesting police brutality when Luna Oy was, a prepubescent child. And they call me a Nazi because these garbage people. These are garbage. This is garbage. BreadTube is garbage. This is garbage. These are garbage human beings. They have nothing to do with our movement, nothing to do with what we stand for. They support U.S. imperialism. They support Wall Street and its war against the people of Eastern Ukraine. And out of nowhere, they're just all over. And this is what it means to be a socialist. It doesn't mean doing what I've done my whole life and taking risks and understanding anti-imperialism and having relationships with the communists around the world. Oh, no, it means, being a fool. It means being an idiot and looking like this. This is what it means to be a socialist now, right? and these people then want to tell you that I'm some kind of Nazi. I am not a fucking Nazi. I have been a leftist and a revolutionary my whole adult life. I have alliances and connections with real revolutionary movements around the world. And I mean, and this is what they want you to think a socialist is. This is trash. This is garbage. This is disgusting, right? I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, do you the FBI is storming into the homes of black revolutionaries, and this is what you're doing? You're playing with puppets? That's what you're talking about? You're playing with puppets while the FBI is storming into the homes of Omali Yeshiteli and the African People's Socialist Party? I mean, you're dancing around and acting silly with your puppets there. While they're bombing the people of Eastern Ukraine and moving us toward World War III, and you're just dancing around silly in your witch costume. Who the fuck are these people? Where did they come from? Right? And how the hell did they get to be in charge and get to start declaring who's a socialist and who's a fascist just for agreeing with them? This is trash, right? And we have to be 100% opposed to this stuff. There's no compromise with these people. I tried to be friendly with them. I thought, hey, okay, there's a group of people on the internet and they're, claiming to believe in the ideology I believe in. They don't seem to really understand it at all. And they're not really anti-imperialist, but maybe I can engage with them. No, you can't engage with them. You can't engage with them. They call me a Nazi. They call me a fascist. They've tried to destroy my reputation. They have gotten me into a situation where I fear for my safety. When I go to leftist events, because they've spread all over the internet that I'm somehow the same as a white supremacist, right? So not only are these people not standing with the people of the world, not only are these people, not anti-imperialists, not only are they clowns who don't take this seriously, but on top of that, they actually are helping to set the stage for police state repression against people like me, right? I mean, it is beyond me, right? It is beyond me. How are these people so vile and disgusting? And I mean, they are the enemy. BreadTube is the enemy. The Uhuru Movement, when they got raided by the FBI, we had them at our conference. We gave them a platform because we're against the U.S. state and its political repression. And Vosh said on his stream that they were the same as Black Hammer, and that they deserved it or whatever. So these people are supporting the American government, pointing guns in the faces of black revolutionaries and threatening to charge them with being Russian agents. Right? I mean, it's disgusting, and then they claim they're the voice of socialism. Don't listen to Caleb, who's actually been doing it his whole life. Don't listen to Caleb, who's got a record a mile long of believing in this stuff, making sacrifices and taking risks for this stuff. Don't listen to Caleb. Listen to them. They know what it's all about. And none of them support Russia. None of them support Russia. None of them support Russia. Right? They agree. They echo MSNBC. They love the Azov Battalion. They preach that Russia is evil and fascist. But name one communist party in the world, one, that is in power that doesn't support Russia. The communists in Vietnam support Russia. The communists in China support Russia. I was just listening to the UN Security Council meeting today. And at the UN Security Council meeting, they were calling out North Korea for its alleged support of Russia in terms of the military. They're alleging, oh my God, North Korea is giving weapons to Russia. Well, you know why? Because they're communists in North Korea. They're communists in North Korea. And, the Nicaraguans, they support Russia. Venezuela, they support Russia. Cuba, they just built a huge statue of Fidel Castro in Russia. And the Cuban president was just over there shaking hands with Putin. About it. Cuba 100% supports Russia. There is not one communist party that is in power right now that is not more or less supporting Russia. Not one. Not one. But these people, look, I mean, listen to them. Don't listen to Caleb, though. Don't listen to Caleb. You know why? Because they have puppets. They clearly know more than me. They got puppets, They got puppets, look at that. Look at that. Why listen to me? Someone who speaks at international conferences, someone who's written many books, they got puppets. Look at that. They got puppets. They got puppets. Look at that. They got their fancy puppets. They must know what they're talking about, right? I mean, these people are vile. These people are vile. I hate them more than anything. They are more dangerous. They are more dangerous than anti-communists, I would argue. By manipulating communism and manipulating Marxism into an ideology that supports their wars, they are more dangerous. Anti-communists are better than these people. Anti-communists are better than these people because at this point, the right-wing anti-communists are against the deep state. These people run interference for the deep state, right? At this point, the right-wing anti-communists are against the wars. These people run propaganda interference for the wars. Show me one video that Luna Soy or Vosh or any of them have made supporting the Uhuru movement. Show me one. Show me one video that they've made ever supporting the people of Eastern Ukraine, of Donbass. Show me one time they've ever shown the Alley of Angels to their audience. These people are worse. They are worse. They preach socialism, but they practice fascism. That's what they do. And they are far more dangerous at this point. Far more dangerous than people that are confused. Libertarians used to drive me up the wall. But libertarians, they at least they believe in economic growth. At least they don't buy into Malthusianism and the idea that human beings, there's just too many people in the world. We all got to just die, which is what the so-called left preaches. Right? At least, libertarians, at least they're against these wars and they don't want to start World War III. The left are, cheering for World War III. I'm glad that I'll be speaking at this rally, on February 19th in Washington, D.C. with a bunch of libertarians because they're actually against these wars and they're not woke, but this wokest crap, these 3-year-olds, these adult children with their silly puppets who think they're socialists or whatever and are being presented to us by the bourgeoisie as socialists. These people are the main danger. We need to do everything we can to crush these people, right? Because they are the main roadblock to revolution. They are, right? I mean, these people, they psych up their audience to want to murder us, right? And they're anti-human. They want to drive down the human population. They want degrowth. They are anti-China. They're anti-Russia. They're anti-Cuba. They're anti-Venezuela. They're not calling out the FBI for its political repression of anti-imperialists right now. These kind of people are the main danger, right? My resume as a legit anti-imperialist revolutionary leader from the time of Occupy Wall Street, from the time I was in Cleveland, recording acts of police brutality is a mile long. But these people have worked overtime to convince people, and it works on people. People are convinced, oh, Caleb, well, I saw this video and it said that Caleb's a Nazi. I'm not a fucking Nazi, you idiot, right? And people, person after person, and there's so many of these cowards who they just, a lot of people don't like Caleb. I just saw this video. Fuck you. It's just these people have gone out of their way to try and destroy my life. They have made my wife miserable. They've gone after my wife very viciously and targeted her as an immigrant woman, for Christ's sakes. She's not white, she's an immigrant woman. They've targeted her and tried to make her miserable. They've gone after my family. These people are evil. They are pure evil. And that's what they need to be called out for. They are pure evil. And at this point, we have to recognize this. If we don't recognize that these people are the main danger, these people are the main danger. They are the new Nazis, these people, these fake internet socialists who, they, with their gay pride flags and their Black Lives Matter flags, the very same people who, when I was working around police brutality before it was cool, were probably the exact same people that said, oh, police brutality is not real. It's always these people with no intellectual courage, none. They have no intellectual courage. All of a sudden it's cool. It's trendy to talk about Black Lives Matter. So all of a sudden, oh yeah, their police brutality exists, right? All of a sudden it's cool to be a socialist. Oh, so they're a socialist all of a sudden. They're the same people that probably would have called me stupid for being a socialist before it was cool. And even now, they don't have the courage to support actual socialism where it exists in the world, right? These are vile human beings. They are vile scum. They really, really are. They are the foot soldiers of neoliberalism and Western capitalist imperialism. And we absolutely need to recognize them for what they are. They are the main danger. That is what they are. They are the foot soldiers of U.S. imperialism. And we need to oppose them as much as we possibly can, right? And I just want to get this out of my system because I know what actual communism is. I have been to communes in central Caracas. I have been to Nicaragua. I have met on election night in 2018. You know where I was? I was reporting from the headquarters of the Russian Communist Party that took place, and I was standing next to Gennady Zyuganov and Pavel Grudinin, who was the Communist Party candidate for president in Russia. I know what communism is. And I think these people have no fucking clue what they're talking about. They have no clue what they're talking about. They are doing the dirty work of the FBI. They are waging a COINTELPRO campaign against genuine socialists. They are trying to put the Uhuru movement in jail. They support terrorizing black revolutionaries and terrorizing legitimate resistance to the deep state. They are supporters of the FBI. They are supporters of the war in Ukraine. They need to be called out for what they are. They are the main danger. And if you don't have the courage to break with these people, if in your mind somehow, well, I can have 1 foot in Caleb and 1 foot with these people, and I can no, I don't want you here, right? You need to recognize these people are the enemy. These people are the enemy. That is what they are, right? At this point, as I have had many heated arguments with conservatives and libertarians in my life, but none of them have blasted all over the internet that I'm a Nazi and tried to destroy my life. I have had many heated arguments with Republicans and conservatives, but none of them have ever done anything close to what these people are doing, right? I mean, at this point, we just have to realize who the main danger is. BreadTube is the enemy. BreadTube is the enemy, and they must be destroyed. They must be destroyed. I mean, if you can't stomach that, if you can't swallow that, if that's just too much for you, get lost. I don't want you here, right? I'm done pandering. I'm done chasing after people. I've got a job to do. I have got a job to do, and I'm sorry. The people who have targeted me so viciously, and the people who are supporting U.S. imperialism, they need to be destroyed. And look, see, this is exactly what I'm talking about, Richard. Oh, you're being unfair. Luna and her husband criticize imperialism all the time. Where's their video supporting the people of East Ukraine, of Donbass, of Lugansk? Show me one video where they have shown the video of the Alley of Angels. Oh, well, they say they're against imperialism in this like vague sense. That doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. Show me one video, Richard, that they have done in support of the Uhuru movement. Show me one video. Did they interview Chairman O'Malley? Did they give a platform to Chairman O'Malley? No, but they've echoed the smears directed at me because I do those things. So don't give me that. They are the enemy. Show me one video they've done to support the people of Eastern Ukraine. One. Show me one time where they said they supported Russia in defending the people of East Ukraine. Show me one place where Luna Oy has ever said that she cares about the Alley of Angels. Hold on. Show me one place. You show me one time Luna Oy has said she gives a flying fuck about any of these children. Show me one place that she's done that. There's a war going on between U.S. imperialism and its Nazi proxies and the people of the eastern regions of Donetsk and Lugansk. You show me one place where she's ever said that she supports ending the killing of these children, where she supports the Russians in protecting these people. You show me one place that she's done that. One. You show me one video she's ever made for the Uhuru movement. A group of black revolutionaries got guns pointed in their face. You show me one time. And Richard, this is what's wrong with you, right? This is what's wrong with people like you. Right? This is exactly what's wrong. I'm speaking directly to people who talk like Richard right now, right? Oh, they criticize imperialism all the time. You know what? Yeah. And Luna also, she hates me because I wave an American flag. American flags are racist. It doesn't matter if you criticize American flags. It doesn't matter if you say you're vaguely against imperialism. It doesn't matter if when the FBI points guns in the faces of Chairman O'Malley, you support it. It doesn't matter if you vaguely, I'm against imperialism, but then a war is going on and the people of Eastern Ukraine are being bombed and shelled and destroyed and Russia moves in to protect them and you condemn Russia. vagueness and symbolism. It's all about aesthetics with you people, isn't it? It's all about aesthetics. Oh, American flags are racist. Caleb uses an American flag. Oh, Luna said, quote, I am against imperialism. So she's against imperialism. It doesn't matter, right? You can say, well, I'm against the U.S. state. Well, when they raid the homes of black revolutionaries and you keep your mouth shut and you echo the smears and say they're the same as Black Hammer and support it, it doesn't matter. And that's my point. I am so tired of people making a big deal out of superficial things. Oh, I don't like the American flag. Fuck you. Martin Luther King had an American flag. Would you have supported the police against him? You know, I mean, it's like these people, they make such a big deal. Luna can make such a big show. Oh, I hate the American flag. It's racist. Oh, you know, that doesn't fucking matter. That's not what being anti-imperialist is about. Anti-imperialism is not about symbols. It's about when there's a war going on. What side are you on? And we know what side she's on. It's not the side her government's on either. So don't give me that. Don't give me that. And that Richard comment, I'm really glad you made that comment, Richard, because that's exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, she said she's against imperialism. Whoop-de-doo. I don't give a flying fuck what she said. She said she's against imperialism. Oh, that solves it. Oh, well, I'm being unfair. She said she's against U.S. imperialism. Oh, she's against the American flag. She's against state repression. She's against it. But when it actually happens, not only does she not say anything about it, but then she joins the campaign against me, somebody who does actually do something about it. So don't give me that. And that's the whole point. You know, anyone can say they're against racism. Anyone can say they're against oppression. Anyone can say they're against these things. But if you're on the same side as the American government, if you're not sticking up for the Uhuru movement right now, if you're not sticking up for the people of Eastern Ukraine, if you're not defending and absolutely supporting Russia moving in to protect the people of Eastern Ukraine, don't give me, well, they're against imperialism. Oh, blow it out your ass. Seriously, I'm so tired of this. That is exactly what is wrong with these people. That is exactly what's wrong with them. They're right there. You know, Richard, you know, so what if she doesn't actually support black people being terrorized by the American government? She said she's against it. Oh, okay. You know, I mean, it's and it's worse. It's not just that they don't do anything. It's not that they're not doing anything. It's not that they're not doing anything to support Russia right now. It's not that they're not doing anything to support the Uhuru movement. But in addition to that, they then help the government target people like me and people like the Uhuru movement. And that is why they are vile scum and they need to be destroyed. They absolutely need to be destroyed. They are vile scum and they need to be destroyed. And I am so tired of people trying to, you know, both sides it and trying to just say, oh, you know, it's all just a matter of opinion. It's not a matter of opinion. These people are imperialist agents. Bosch, ContraPoints, Thought Slime, all of them. They are agents of U.S. imperialism. They are agents of U.S. imperialism. That is what they are. That is exactly what they are. And they need to be treated as such. They are imperialist collaborators, right? They are imperialist collaborators. Until I see them putting up the Alley of Angels, until they decide that these lives matter, even though they're not on CNN, until they say that these lives matter, I don't want to hear about how they're anti-imperialist. They're not anti-imperialist. If you don't say these lives matter, then you're not an anti-imperialist. Right? And if you don't, you know, Kim Iverson is more of an anti-imperialist than Luna Soy ever was. If you don't support this man right now, and if you're not doing everything you can right now to raise awareness about this man and how they broke into his home and how they're trying to crush a revolutionary black organization right now, you are not an anti-imperialist. I don't care how many times you say, oh, I'm against imperialism on your stream. I don't care about it. And if you're condemning supporters of Russian imperialism, if you're condemning, you know, Nazbols, then you are an agent of U.S. imperialism, and you need to be treated as such. And that's all there is to it. That's really all there is to it, right? And if you're echoing the smears against China, they are agents of imperialism. They are agents of imperialism, right? And that's what they are. Oh, let's hear some more from this Richard guy. Richard, do you want to come on this stream? You want to come on this stream? I'll bring you right on this stream, and we'll have a talk. You want to come on here? You want me to drop the link in the chat? I can do that. Yeah, but hear this. Oh, well, if you don't want to be called a right-winger, don't meet with Dugin. You can support Russia without meeting with Dugin. It's funny, I went on CNN. Did you know that? I appeared on CNN. I never heard any of these people call me out. I went on a right-wing U.S. imperialist propaganda network called CNN. Did you call me out for that? Did anyone call me a Nazi for doing that? No. I've met with all kinds of people in my life. Dugin is a popular intellectual in what country? Russia. And what side is Russia on? The anti-imperialist side. So that's why I met with him. So why, if you're so naive, if you think that somehow, Richard, if you think somehow that's an argument against me, you are not an anti-imperialist. I met with an intellectual in Russia, one of the top thinkers in Russia, a country that is standing with the children I just showed you, that is up against the U.S. imperialists. And if you think that is a legit argument against me, you have no idea what anti-imperialism was about. You have no idea what anti-imperialism is about, my friend. You have absolutely no clue what anti-imperialism is about, right? Tell me, Richard, are you against conservatives or are you against U.S. imperialism? Because, Dugin is very popular in China. He appears on Chinese state media very frequently. Dugin, is a respected intellectual around the world. He's one of the main thinkers of the anti-imperialist camp. He's not a Marxist. He has a different perspective. But the fact that you fixate on Dugin, you just fixate, well, Dugin's right wing, and I heard he's right wing, and I was told that he's like a Nazi, and all my liberal friends who vote for Biden said he's bad, and so then Caleb has to be bad because he met with him. Your liberal friends are the kind of people that support murdering children in eastern Ukraine. Your liberal friends are the ones that sat back and did nothing while this guy got his home raided. Don't you get it? You should be against what U.S. imperialism tells you to be for, and you should be for what U.S. imperialism tells you to be against. How hard is this to understand, right? Mainstream media and the woke media is not someone you should be taking directions from about who is to cancel and who shouldn't be canceled. And the fact that you can't wrap your mind around that. It's like, well, Dugin, I heard in mainstream U.S. media he's bad. Well, that's a good sign. That's a sign that he might be good. He's more anti-imperialist than any of the so-called Marxists and leftists in America right now. I'll tell you that much. He's with the people of eastern Ukraine. He's been supporting them. He understands Marxism more than you guys do. And that is classic. That Richard guy. Say some more stuff, Richard. We're going to put you on the screen. I want everyone to see you because you are exactly what I'm talking about. You think somehow what these people do, which is not support Russia, not support the people of eastern Ukraine, not support black revolutionaries who are under attack, number one, and on top of that, run interference, and try to manipulate things for the imperialists. And on top of that, third, try to destroy the lives of people like me who have given our lives, made huge sacrifices for this movement, not just done little stupid puppet shows on the internet, but actually put our bodies on the line. You try to destroy our lives. You are the kind of people who would have gone to lynchings, Richard. You would have gone to lynchings back in the day. In the time of Jim Crow, if there was a bunch of black men who were going to get lynched, you would have gone to it. Well, everyone else was, everyone else did. It was the cool thing to do, right? It's just what you do, right? I mean, he must have deserved it. I mean, all these people can't be wrong. That's what you would have done. You're exactly like that. You're the kind of person who would have returned your friends into McCarthyism. Well, everyone said the Communist Party was bad. I mean, why wouldn't we turn in our friends during McCarthyism? People like you, intellectual conformists, you are just like the people who said that the students at Kent State deserved it. That's what you are, Richard. You think you're a socialist. You're not a socialist, Richard. You are not a socialist. You are going along with forces that speak in the name of socialism and are actively trying to put these people in jail, that are actively trying to destroy my life, and are actively trying to march us into World War III with Russia. You are vile scum, and I don't want you to watch this channel. I don't want you to watch this channel. Oh, but it's okay that they're trying to destroy your life, Caleb. You met with Dugin one time. Fuck you. Get lost. I don't want your subscription. People like you, I don't want to entertain you. I don't want you to read my books. I don't want anything to do with vile scum like you. You are the worst, right? And it is better for you to be 100% against me. It is far better to have you against me than it is for people like you to pretend to be for me. It's far better because people like you pretend to support me, but get lost, You know, get lost. Go join the Vosh fan club. Get lost. You know, I am done. I am done trying to be popular. I'm really done trying to be popular. I'm not ever going to be popular in a society like this. You know, trying to be popular in U.S. imperialist society right now is about the same as trying to be popular in Nazi Germany. You know, I mean, they're, in Nazi Germany, when they were throwing Jews in gas chambers, it was probably really unpopular to go around speaking up against it. It probably, people wouldn't like you, Well, right now, America is murdering people in Eastern Ukraine and setting the stage for World War III. It's backing the Saudis to murder the people of Yemen and killing thousands of them, I'm against it. And if that makes me unpopular, if I'm not cool because I'm against it, I'm so sorry for not fitting in with a satanic evil society that murders people. I'm so sorry I'm not popular in the country that is arming the Azov battalion. Have you seen the videos of what they do, in these areas they take where they tie the people to lamp poles? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I'm not popular with the mainstream media and the social media algorithms that make Zelensky a hero. You disgust me, Richard. You disgust me. You are the worst, right? You are the worst. You are the worst kind. I would rather have you be a full-on anti-communist. I'd rather have you in the Ku Klux Klan than have you be what you are right now, a fake socialist. Well, you did meet with Dugin. Oh, you did meet with Dugin, so it's okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. I met with Dugin one time, so that makes it okay. That makes it okay for these people to support U.S. imperialism, for them to try and destroy my life, for them to actively try to put this black revolutionary leader in prison. It's okay for them to, do public relations for the Azov battalion. Well, you met with Dugin one time. Oh, shut up. Get lost, Richard. Get lost, right? It's infuriating. It's utterly infuriating. It is infuriating. We must do all we can to stop World War III. We are on the brink of World War III at this point. We are on the brink of a new world war. And I want people to think for a moment. Think for a fucking moment, right? What are you going to tell your children? It was 2023. And it looked like we were heading into World War III. And, I was against it kind of. But, I didn't want anyone to think I was like pro-Russian. And, I didn't want anyone to be mean to me on social media. So I just didn't say anything about it, because, it wasn't cool or anything. And so I just kind of wanted to fit in because I was afraid I might get canceled. And so, yeah, I just kind of sat back. And then when Joe Biden pushed the button and dropped atomic bombs and like 2/3 of the human race died, that was shitty. I wish I'd done something about it, but, people might have been mean to me on the internet. People might have been mean to me. Like one of my relatives might have been mean on the internet. And so I couldn't do it, is that what you want to tell your children if you survive the Third World War? Is that what you want to tell your children? Is that what you want to tell your children if you survive the nuclear war? Well, I could have done something to try and stop it, but I was embarrassed, and I was scared, I was scared that people on the internet would say mean things about me. Look, they were so mean to Caleb and, they could be mean to me too. So I made excuses to go along with it. And, it all worked out. 2/3 of the human race died and there were mushroom clouds everywhere, but, it was okay. It's not a big deal. It wasn't so bad, right? People need to think. I hate to get moralistic because at the end of the day, moralistic appeals. We need to think, we need to think in dialectical materialist ways. We need to talk about the material basis of an anti-imperialist united front, which I've done many, many times on these streams. But sometimes we just have to be moralistic about it. I'm talking to everyone who's listening right now. We have to be moralistic about this. We are living in a period. We are watching American capitalism collapse. And in order to save its power, they are on the brink of launching a new world war. And, I'm not here to I'm not here to try and be your conscience and tell you what you should be feeling, but I feel like if you have any moral bone in your body, 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 any sense of morality, any sense of right and wrong, you should be doing everything you can to try and stop World War III. You should be doing everything you can to build an anti-imperialist community of solidarity in America. I mean, it's just basic. I mean, I hate to get so fired up at all of you, but you know, sometimes you do just have to, you know, frame things in a moralistic way. Right and wrong do exist. Right and wrong do exist. And what the imperialists are doing right now is wrong. They have killed millions of people, and they are on the brink of unleashing a disaster. Folks, I got to tell you, okay? I can't tell you everything now, right? Everything can't be on the internet. And that's one thing, you know, we need to, seriously, everything can't be on the internet. Everything doesn't belong on the internet. And some things I can't tell you right now, but I know a lot about what's going on right now, okay? Watch the Korean Peninsula. Watch the Korean Peninsula right now, folks. I got to tell you, just watch the Korean Peninsula, because that's where, oh shit. If stuff is possibly, watch the Korean Peninsula. Watch the Korean Peninsula, folks. I don't want to start crying here. I don't want to get emotional. Watch the Korean Peninsula. That's what I got to tell you guys. Just watch the Korean Peninsula. The fact that they're already saying, oh, North Korea is giving weapons to Russia, and, you know, and I mean, watch the Korean Peninsula, folks. The Korean Peninsula is so, so important. The Korean Peninsula is so, so important right now. And, you know, when Donald Trump went to North Korea, that was such a big deal. There was so much hope. And, you know, it's best of times, worst of times. Watch the Korean Peninsula. Folks, I want to show you this video. There's another video I want to show you. I think this is a good thing that we're showing clips here on the stream, right? This is good, right? But let me pull up this video. I want to show you all this video, right? Because there is so much propaganda, you know, there's so much propaganda trying to get us to believe that, like, the North Koreans are just bloodthirsty monsters. They're extremists. They're so evil. They're so, you know, whatever. But I want you to see this video. I really, really want you to see this video. Because, I mean, again, the North Koreans, no, they don't have a voice of their own. And this is what drives me crazy. This is why I can't stand people who just listen to mainstream media. The North Koreans, it's very hard to ever hear what they have to say. We hear the U.S. imperialists saying what they think or telling us about them all the time. And they rarely do we ever get to hear what they have to say or their version of events. We never get to hear it. You know, they do everything. I mean, it's infuriating to me. They will just lie about North Korea. You know, they will say things like, oh, in North Korea, they believe in unicorns, right? They believe in unicorns in North Korea. And they don't, you know, but North Korea never gets a chance to stand up and say, no, we don't believe in unicorns. Come on. They never get that chance. You know, they never get an opportunity. The North Koreans never get an opportunity to speak in their own defense. And the worst lies are told about them, and they're passed off as just truth. Just truth, they say things like Kim Jong-un owns the world's largest collection of pornography. That's not true. They execute anyone who watches a video critical of the government. That's not true, but they never get an opportunity to defend themselves. That's why I have committed on here to showing you what mainstream U.S. media will not show us, which is their side of the story. They release some videos to just give you, to show you what's actually going on in North Korea. So this is something that this has actually happened in North Korea. This is a video that they just recently released. It's a new year in North Korea. It's a new year. And so, in North Korea, because the government has a responsibility to serve the people, they had a New Year's rally. in North Korea. Did you know this? Every year they have a rally, to celebrate, the new year, So this year, the rally that they did, the theme was embracing new courage and vitality. This is the rally they did in North Korea. New Year.
자욱을 새겨 아른다 희망을 꽃 피워도 꽃 피워도 여기서 꽃이 우리 우물이 저구가 나의 저구가 이 하늘 이 땅에서 내 꿈의 꽃이 우리
Yeah. This is beautiful. I mean, look at this. I mean, do these people look like people that want to murder us all? Do these people look like bloodthirsty people being oppressed by an evil regime? They can't think for themselves. They're just existing under the boot heels of Kim Jong-un. I mean, this is a people that are just human beings like us. And they have endured and withstood so much. I mean, the U.S. imperialists have thrown everything they can at these people. And they have resisted and they have stood strong, I mean, and this is how they kicked off the new year, with a big rally to celebrate their country. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. These people are not our enemies. These are the people we should be learning from. If anything, like, these are people who know how to fight Western capitalism. They know how to get over the liberal mindset of individualism. We need to learn from the North Koreans, not demonize them, not isolate them, not attack them. I mean, this is, and watch the Korean Peninsula, folks. I don't want to say too much about it, but things could get very ugly very quickly. We need to be the Americans who stand with these people. We need to be the Americans who are remembered for standing up for these people and speaking on their behalf when they don't get a chance to speak, and saying, no, they're not monsters. No, they're not evil. No, they're not all, fascists and evil. They're good people, and we admire them and we support them, and we want peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. That's who we need to be. If we're living in the center of the empire, that is who we need to be. We need to be the Americans who stood up for these people and made clear that Joe Biden shouldn't nuke them. You know what I mean? That's who we need to be. We need to be the Americans who say these are human beings. These are human beings who have stood up to U.S. imperialism. They need to be supported and not attacked. They need to be not demonized. That is what we need to be doing. That is what we need to be doing. That's who we need to be. If there's any moral bone in your body, we talk about materialism and the material basis of the United Front, but if there's any moral bone in your body, we have to be the people, the people that are on these people's side, and do whatever is necessary to make sure that U.S. imperialism doesn't, nuke them to death. And we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility. We have a responsibility. We really do, and I just want to impress that on you all, right? We're going to be having a really important anti-imperialist rally in Washington, D.C. It'll be indoors. It's not like a protest. It'll be indoors. It'll be an indoor event. We're having it March 25th and 26th in Washington, D.C. And we need to make that our all. I don't care. This could be Caleb Mon's last stand. This could be the last time I ever have the opportunity to do something like this. We got to make it count. So many, it's gotten so much harder to organize and do things, but we have got to give it our all, because if we don't make it count now, when we're on the brink of a new world war, when people are in danger, if we don't make it count now, there's nothing we can do. I need you to join the Center for Political Innovation. I need you to help us build our very, very important anti-imperialist event that's coming up. I need you to join this movement and give yourself to it. And I need you to give yourself to the cause of defeating U.S. imperialism. If there's ever been a time to do it, maybe do it a couple years, then go be a dentist, or, go sleep on the beach or something. But now is the time. If there's ever been a time, we are in an emergency situation, folks. We are in an emergency situation. We are in an emergency situation. Stopping U.S. imperialism right now, this is an emergency. This is an emergency situation. I don't know how to impress it on people hard enough. I can't repeat it. I can't repeat that enough. This is an emergency situation. The danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, and revolution is the main trend in the world today. This is a serious time. And the kind of people who just quibble over bullshit, like, here we go. Richard, I love you, Richard. Please continue. Being anti-Dugin or pro-Dugin has nothing to do with being pro-imperialist or anti-imperialist. Yes, it does. Yes, it does, Richard, because Dugin is an important intellectual in Russia. And Russia is the main force fighting U.S. imperialism and fighting NATO expansion right now. So buying into this logic that Dugin is the same as Hitler, and anyone who speaks to Dugin is therefore toxic, and we should celebrate the murder of Dugin's daughter, that is being pro-imperialist, Richard. Yes, it does. What you're saying there, right? I'm trying to think of an analogy, but it's like, Dugin has nothing. Yes, he does. He's one of the main intellectuals in a country that is fighting U.S. imperialism. And so joining a cancel culture campaign and a hate campaign that was used to justify murdering his daughter makes you pro-imperialist, Richard. A 28-year-old girl was blown to bits. And you're on here, well, she's not a Marxist. So, it's like the U.S. imperialists are targeting anyone who will stand up to them. Richard, do you hear please, can you join the Ku Klux Klan, Richard? Can you do us all a favor and stop pretending to be a Marxist? Can you do us all a favor and stop pretending to be a Marxist? Not only by saying that, it's like you don't get it. You don't get it at all. U.S. imperialism is targeting Russia. In their rants against Russia, they demonize one particular intellectual. And they demonize him, and they say, well, there's this scary intellectual in Russia, and that's why you should hate Russia. And you go along with that. You go along with that hysterical campaign, and then his daughter gets murdered by the Ukrainians. A 28-year-old young woman gets murdered. And your response is, well, he's not a Marxist. He's not a Marxist. What is wrong with you? Please, can you join the Klan? Please, join the Ku Klux Klan. Join the John Birch Society. join, I don't know, DSA, but don't call yourself a revolutionary. You because someone is not ideologically kosher in your mind, that makes it okay. And you can't comprehend that, like, there's a reason the New York Times demonizes Dugin, right? It's like Marxism is about really existing social forces. In Marxism, you don't get to just sit there and like imagine, well, in my ideal world, this would happen. It doesn't work like that. There's real forces that are fighting. There are real black revolutionaries who had their homes raided by the FBI. There's a real country, a region called Donetsk. There's a real region called Lugansk, right? There's a real country called Yemen, folks. It's like, how do people not get this, right? And they if there's ever a time that those of us who do get it need to just step up and do everything we can to stand in solidarity with Russia and China and Venezuela and Cuba and Iran and North Korea. We are on the brink of World War III. And I got fired up tonight. I had a lot of emotions, and but it needs to be done, and needs to be said. And I hope somebody heard me. And there we go. There we go, folks. All right. I got a few super chats here to answer. So why don't we do the names and locations? Names and locations. I will call you out as I see you. Names and locations. Who's with us tonight? Names and locations. Names and locations. Who's with us? I will call you out as I see you. Names and location. I'm glad you appreciated it, Jenny. I just got to keep talking here. Solidarity. Thank you. Names and locations. Who's with us tonight? Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Houston. Rupert Fellows in England. Very, very good. Michael in Houston. Fired up for the right reasons. Very good. JT24 in Mississippi. Temple City, California. We got Ireland in the house. Cleveland Pirate Alex. Australia. Colin in Greensboro. We got Fred in Alameda County. Ryan in Oakland. Oklahoma City. Mark in Mission, Texas. Portland, Oregon. Elizabeth Y. Jonathan in Los Angeles. Tyler in Missouri. Molly McGuire in Orange County. Herb Bryant in Florida. Jim in Harrisburg. Jenny Lynn in Cincinnati. Alex from Brazil. Free Uhuru. Chester in England. Killian from Milwaukee. James in Phuket, Thailand. Ishmael in Los Angeles. Peter. Yulia Perch in Long Beach. San Diego County. Karen Mendes is in Germany. Bob Troy in New York. Ottawa. Work in progress. Phil in Miami, Florida. Patch in Arizona. Standing up, Caleb. Absolutely. We are going to stand up, and we are going to keep going. Burns in Alabama. St. David's in Bermuda. Gavin in Illinois. We love you, Gavin. You're a beloved member of this community. Micah in Las Vegas. Briggy in Pennsylvania, PA. Gary in Indiana. Very good. Gary, Indiana. Richard used to play. Okay. That was an accident. Didn't mean to put that on the screen. All right. There we go. Who else is with us tonight? Names and locations. Micah in Las Vegas. All right. Ottawa, Ontario. Upper Peninsula, Viking Dave. Minas in Brazil. Very good. Very, very good. Anyone else? Names and locations. Anybody else? Names and locations. Anybody? Names and locations. Names and locations. All right. Not serious Caleb rock throwing. There you go. Dick Cheney's bunker in Wyoming. Well, there you go. Right. Klaus in East Berlin. Yonatan Mahari in London in the United Kingdom. Fremont, California. Jenny Boris. Very, very good. Welcome, Jenny Boris. Welcome. Chris in Salt Lake City is with us. Welcome, Chris. Welcome. Good times, folks. So glad to be here with all of you. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. John McCarthy in Chicago. John is one of the most dedicated people. He is dedicated to standing up for the Uhuru movement. Good for him. So there you go. John is great. You know, Luna has not said shit about Ukraine. Exactly. So she's not an anti-imperialist. That's what that means. You know, so there you go. There you go. All right. Well, listen, let me see. I think I'm going to play some music next. So I think I will. I'm not sure. I haven't like made my decision yet. But I think I will. Right? Yeah. I thought it might be kind of a neat thing to do, right? So, you know, I've referenced this country song, Dark as a Dungeon, before. Do folks remember that? There's a country song about being a coal miner called Dark as a Dungeon, right? And it's about how after you've been a coal miner for a while, you can't really do anything else, you know? It's kind of a sad song about being a coal miner. I think I've referenced that here. And then I discovered that the communists of Canada took Dark as a Dungeon, right? And they turned it into like a joyful communist anthem. So I thought it would be fun to play them back to back. So this is the song Dark as a Dungeon, the sad song about being a coal miner. And then I'm going to play the Canadian communist version of it. And then from there, I'll start answering super chats. So if anyone has any more super chats for me to answer in the second half of the show, do that. But I just thought we'd listen to some music here.
Come on, young fellas, so young and so fine. Seek not your fortune, but down in the mine. It will form as a habit, creep in your soul, till the stream of your blood runs black as the coal. Where it's dark as a dungeon, damp as the dew, danger is double, pleasures are few. Where the rain never falls, the sun never shines, it's dark as a dungeon, way down in the mine. There's many a man seen in my day, live just to labor the whole lives away. Like a fiend with his dope, a drunkard with his wine, a man will lust for the lure of the mind. And I pray when I'm dead, my ages shall roll, and my body would blacken and turn into gold. And I come through the door of my heavenly home, and pity the miner digging my bones. Where it's dark as a dungeon, damp as the dew, danger is double, pleasures are few. Where the rain never falls, the sun never shines, it's dark as a dungeon, way down in the mine. Where it's dark as a dungeon, damp as the dew, danger is double, pleasures are few. Where the rain never falls, the sun never shines, it's dark as a dungeon, way down in the mines.
All right. And now we'll do the happy version. The happy version brought to you by the Canadian Cultural Workers Association. So here we go.
glorious struggle to build CPCNL. Oh, it is the story of how our class continues to fight battle after battle to smash the old and build the new. And we won another battle, see the enemy fall. But don't it seem paltry and don't it seem small? Still the enemy besets us and blocks our advance. But the times cry out, here's the rose now dance. In the early 60s, against increasing exploitation, the people rose up to change the situation. Despite revisionist betrayal of this massive upsurge, a new quality in small quantity from the movement emerged. And we won another battle, see the enemy fall. But don't it seem paltry and don't it seem small? Still the enemy besets us and blocks our advance. But the times cry out, here's the rose now dance. They said don't turn off the people by making a scene, or you isolate the left from the mainstream. But we boldly shouted, down with imperialism, down with the lackeys, down with revisionism. And we won another battle, see the enemy fall. But don't it seem paltry and don't it seem small? Still the enemy besets us and blocks our advance. But the times cry out, here's the rose now dance. There were still lots of questions, but we never shied, for we had Marxism, Leninism, an invincible guide. The trend of unity of Marxist-Leninists irresistibly spread, and defending Marxism, we marched ahead. And we won another battle, see the enemy fall. But don't it seem paltry and don't it seem small? Still the enemy besets us and blocks our advance. But the times cry out, here's the rose now dance. Marxists and petty bourgeois clans, they all did their best to upset our plans. But they could not stop us, nor could the state attacks, nor the jailing of comrades who dared to fight back. And we won another battle, see the enemy fall. But don't it seem paltry and don't it seem small? Still the enemy besets us and blocks our advance. But the times cry out, here's the rose now dance. Driven into a frenzy, the state and agent provocateurs into our ranks, thinking to stop us for sure. But their hope for easy victory was just a pipe dream, as we smashed the opportunists and exposed their schemes. And we won another battle, see the enemy fall. But don't it seem paltry and don't it seem small? Still the enemy besets us and blocks our advance. But the times cry out, here's the rose now dance. The so-called Marxist-Leninist demand a dogma that's pure, but all they could show us was a gross caricature. Safeguard our independence, the opportunists did say, but the working class sent it back, make the rich pay. And we won another battle, see the enemy fall. But don't it seem paltry and don't it seem small? Still the enemy besets us and blocks our advance. But the times cry out, here's the rose now dance. They unfurled their yellow banner called Mao Zedong thought, and gleefully shouted that we had been caught. While ever loyal to Marxism, we stood our ground. The referendum of our party brought Mao Zedong thought down. And we won another battle, see the enemy fall. But don't it seem paltry and don't it seem small? Still the enemy besets us and blocks our advance. But the times cry out, here's the rose now dance. The road has been long, but learn from our class. The proletarian revolution is a practical task. Here is our banner and here is our task. Defend the Marxist-Leninist party as the vanguard of the class. And we won another battle, see the enemy fall. But don't it seem paltry and don't it seem small? Still the enemy besets us and blocks our advance. But the times cry out, here's the rose now dance.
There you go. Gavin gets it. Smash the opportunists and expose their schemes. Absolutely. Absolutely. All righty. All right, folks. All right. So now I am going to start answering super chat questions. So if you have something else you want me to talk about here, feel free to send another super chat. So the first one, first super chat I received is American imperialism is the great destabilizer. Oh. Very good. Wrote it down. Yeah, I mean, at this point, that's the only way they can stay on top of the world is to just grind the rest of the world into poverty and chaos, and that's what they're doing. You know, their war in Iraq led to instability all through Iraq. Their war in Libya led to instability all through Libya. They've reduced Syria to chaos. They want chaos. That is very, very clear. And that is what the U.S. imperialists are trying to do. There's a lot of people who look at the war in Iraq and say, well, they failed in Iraq. They failed because they couldn't bring stability to Iraq. That was never the goal. The goal was that a country that was once selling oil on the international markets in competition with Wall Street was now reduced to chaos. And their oil exports are about 10% of what they once were. And Iraq has been ground into poverty and chaos. U.S. imperialism now has more of a monopoly on the oil market. So there you go. Right? Oh, that's an interesting question. Okay. Yeah. So that's a good question. It's actually one I can give you an answer to, surprisingly, right? But there you go. Okay, so yeah, U.S. imperialism is spreading instability around the world. They want the world to stay in chaos so that they can stay at the top, because stability means Russia and China continue to rise, and that's what China is doing with their Belt and Road Initiative. That's what Russia is doing with the Eurasian Economic Union. They're bringing stability. So there you go. Oh, I know that song, sure. Oh, okay. Good one. We'll play that later. But yeah, there you go. So you know, I just wanted to yeah, that's that one. So what about Yemen? Well, see, I never actually got to Yemen. We left Iran. We left from the port in southern Iran. We left, and I'm trying to remember the name of the port city in southern Iran. But you know, we left from Iran with the Red Crescent on the mission. You know, it's really wild. When I went on this aid ship destined for Yemen, right, and then we couldn't go because the port was bombed. We were like on the brink of visiting Yemen, and the port was bombed 5 times or 8 times in a single day. You know, I'm actually going to put you know, it was a big international incident. You know, it was the Iran Shahid was the name of the ship. And it was a big deal. Like, there were Reuters news articles about it. Like, you know, like here's, you know, May 19th, Iranian aid vessel not escorted by warships, activists, right? Like, you know, here's the link. I'm dropping. This is the Reuters article about it. Like, Reuters covered it. It created an international incident. Very good question. It created an international incident. You know, I was on this ship, and here's the Reuters news article about it, where they quote me. Caleb Maupin, a native of Ohio who has campaigned against war and the U.S. financial system, is on board the ship. He also said he has not seen any escort, right? You know, May 17th. This is also from Reuters. Iranian aid ship carries activists into waters off of Yemen. Like, this was a really big deal when it happened, and the Iran nuclear deal negotiations were happening. John Kerry actually mentioned my name on a phone call with Javid Zarif, from what I understand. This ship was on its way to Yemen, and John Kerry was very angry about this ship, because he didn't approve it. Iran and the USA were negotiating, and I was, invited to go on this ship to bring medical aid to Yemen, and John Kerry was apparently very angry that they had put an American on this ship. So, and I was on the ship trying to reach Yemen with medical aid, trying to bring medical aid to Yemen, and we never actually reached Yemen because they bombed the port 8 times in a single day, and so I ended up in Djibouti. Which is a wild story, but I used to have a Wikipedia page. I was at the center of this international incident that was covered multiple times by Reuters, where Iran was trying to send a ship full of medical aid to Yemen. The Israelis said that the Israelis and the Saudis both claimed we were smuggling weapons. Then we unloaded our ship in Djibouti. It was clear we weren't smuggling weapons. That was a lie they were telling, hoping that they could get away with murdering us. They were all set up to kill us when we arrived. And I saw American, fighter planes dipping over our ship. It was very scary. It was on that ship that I rediscovered my faith in God and had a, kind of a spiritual awakening. I came back to the United States determined that I would take this more seriously, and that, socialism with American characteristics and all of that is really a result of a spiritual transformation that I had on this ship. But it was a really, really big deal when I was on this ship. It was covered by Reuters. It was covered by the Financial Times, and John Kerry mentions me on the phone and all of this, but they took my Wikipedia page down. They just, all of a sudden, all these trolls came on there and they said, well, Caleb's not relevant. He's not relevant. And they took my Wikipedia page down. It's like, I'm sorry. I was at the center of this international incident, where Iran was sending, I'm not relevant, apparently. It just shows you how rigged this is, right? And it's like, I've done this. I've risked my life trying to bring aid to the people of Yemen. But, it's all over the internet. No, anyone who does any surface level research and doesn't investigate into who I actually am, no, Caleb's a Nazi. He's a Nazi. There's 5 or 6 YouTube videos that say that. So it must be true. And it's like, that's why I get so angry, because I have put my body on the line. I have put my life into this. I've taken big risks. And one thing I will say that I really can't stand, let me just throw this out there. One thing I really can't stand is if you don't want to be part of this, just don't. You know what I mean? No one's making you. I've never made anybody be part of this, but the amount of whiny complaints there were about me, oh my God, Caleb, made us do stuff. Caleb was like, oh my God. It's like, you think we're going to make a revolution without doing stuff? I just, the amount of entitlement, and it's just if you don't want to be part of this, just don't be part of it. I'm not going to, I'm not going to make you be part of it. You know what I mean? But it's like I have made so many sacrifices, and I've endured so much for anti-imperialism. And these people, these people who complain that I ask them to drive too much, or I ask them to pick up stuff from stores, or it's just, yeah, I asked him to drive me somewhere. That's some of the complaints about me, right? A lot of the complaining is he was always trying to make us drive places, or, he paid for all of our food. He paid for all of our housing, but, it was not a nice hotel he put us up in for months. Oh shit. I'm sorry. I should have put you up in the Hyatt Regency in downtown Manhattan. Give me a break. It's just I'm trying to get shit done, and nobody made you be part of this. I've never coerced anyone into doing anything, ever. I'm not a coercive guy. I don't own any guns. I've never forced anyone to do anything. If I enable people to do activism, I just, the amount of pathetic whiny complaining, you know what I mean? And, I think about the people of Yemen and what they're enduring. And I think about how we're here at the center of the empire trying to build resistance. And it's like, oh, but the hotel I got you wasn't, fancy enough. It's just like, oh my God, do you know what hotel rooms cost in New York City? So, thanks, Tyler. Thanks. All right, next question. All right. PSL infiltrated, blackmailed with sexual assault allegations. There have been a number of, see, this is the thing. This is what happens. The internet has created an incentive, right? And I mean, this is, it's not, I mean, it's obviously it's affected me, but it's affected a lot of people. Wokeness is a cancer and it will destroy your organization. And it's on, and if you get infected with wokeness, if you get infected with wokeness, it inevitably, destroys your group. And that they have created a moment where it's like, and I've seen this, like there's a church I've talked to and they are dealing with this, right? It's a moment for people to feel special if they get to tattle on somebody. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like the internet has created this moment where if you're mad at somebody, you then have this opportunity to make yourself special by tattling on somebody. And that, I actually, I don't like PSL, but I have defended them. And it's like, and then, some places, Caleb defended PSL against allegations. Yes, I did. Because it was like, I could just tell it was bullshit, right? It was somebody had quit the group and they had dated somebody and they were claiming that this person in the group had been domestically violent with them. Well, that's an issue between them and that person. But it was like, oh, PSL won't expel this person who had, it's like, shut up. I don't want to hear it. And there's so much like that. They did this to the Workers' World Party in 2017 after I was already out. I don't even know what happened. I've never even gotten a full story, but it destroyed the organization. The Freedom Road Socialist Organization, they've been targeted with stuff like this. There's other, and this is just what they do. Right. And it's like, a relationship doesn't go well or somebody does something, something sexual happens between two people. And then there's a feeling that, well, one person, it's just this stuff is just toxic and it destroys organizations. Right. And that these people, the problem is that social media creates this atmosphere where this is like the only time in these people's lives they ever get to feel special. Right. If they can just put a bunch of sex stuff on the internet and announce that they're victims, rape is rape. Sexual assault is sexual assault. Right. Those two things are pretty straightforward. Right. Somebody puts their hands on somebody and the person says no, and they put their hands on them. That's not acceptable. That's sexual assault. Rape is obviously what rape is. You know what I mean? But there's a whole lot of now something consensual happened, but maybe somebody was higher up in the group or somebody hit on somebody and they said no, but then they felt uncomfortable afterwards. And it's like, it's a new atmosphere and people should learn to be more careful. But there's just so much of this crap, you know what I mean? Where it's like, it's just, and so it's like even PSL, as much as I hate the PSL, like I've seen a lot of that stuff floating around the internet and I don't give it any time. Right? It's toxic. It's toxic, right? And it destroys organizations, right? And it's just, it's toxic. And it's funny, there are whole websites, that do nothing but repeat this kind of garbage about socialist groups, right? It's all just stuff like that. And it's like, as much as I don't like the PSL needs to be called out and, they're at this point, PSL, they were kind of on the fence for a while. I didn't like them, but they at least were taking good positions. Now PSL has moved in such a bad direction. They're neutral on Ukraine and they're trying to keep the anti-war movement attached to wokeness. They're targeting Nick Brana. They're targeting me. They're trying to keep the anti-war movement weak and isolated so it can be a tool of the Democratic Party. Right. They're pro-imperialist and they've always been anti-intellectual. They've always been movementarian revisionists. You know what I mean? But, but then, it's worse than that. It's really worse than that. That now they're neutral on Ukraine. Now they're supporting, they want to lock up all the January 6th protesters, and jail them. They support, the lockdowns and they oppose the truckers and they're on the wrong side now. And the reason that they're so dangerous is because they're trying to keep anti-imperialism attached to wokeness, right? Wokeness is the main danger, but they are trying to keep anti-imperialism attached to wokeness because they don't want anti-imperialism to become popular. There's a potential right now for anti-imperialist politics to become very, very popular. And PSL is one of the main reasons it's not. Polls show overwhelmingly millions and millions of Americans are against these wars. But the anti-war movement is smaller and weaker than ever. You know why that is? Because Brian Becker, he's got all the permits. That's why. Brian Becker's got all the permits. He's the king of the protest cage, and he makes sure that nobody who's not woke gets to speak at any of his rallies. He only lets woke people speak at his rallies. And he says anyone who's not woke is a fascist. And he supports the crackdown after January 6th. And he wants to jail Donald Trump and all of Trump's supporters for sedition, and he supports the lockdowns. And he supports Black Lives Matter, and anyone who's critical of the leadership of Black Lives Matter is a Nazi and a racist, and he doesn't want any unity with libertarians. He doesn't, it's PSL is a toxic group, and it needs to be called out. As Gavin said, smash the opportunists and expose their schemes. We are going to figure out how to take action against PSL. We're not. We'll have to be smart about how we do it. No matter how we do it, they will just cry victims and say, oh, that proves that Caleb's a Nazi. Well, they already say that. You know what I mean? We have to do it in a smart way, right? And obviously we wouldn't do anything illegal. We wouldn't violently attack anyone or anything like that. But we need to find a way to confront PSL. PSL needs to be confronted. They absolutely need to be confronted. They are trying to keep anti-imperialism attached to wokeness, and they are using bloodthirsty, ruthless tactics to do it. They're criminals. They're criminals. You know what I mean? I mean, at a time when we're on the brink of World War III, they've been dedicated to protesting for abortion, right? So there you go. But there you go. All right, next question. Pol Pot is a Maoist. Yeah, well, here's what happened, right? Is that, China during the Gang of Four, after the fall of Lin Biao. So you had the Cultural Revolution. Cultural Revolution in China, it started out as, Mao and Lin Biao. They were moving against the revisionist, what they called the capitalist roaders, the leaders of the Communist Party that were revisionists. And then they had the 1969 Chinese Communist Party Congress, where the Red Guards defeated the quote-unquote capitalist roaders, Liu Shaoqi, people like that. Then after that, Lin Biao was removed and replaced by the Gang of Four. And the Gang of Four were aligned with the United States against the Soviet Union. The Gang of Four said that the United States, or the Soviet Union, was the main danger to the people of the world. That was their line. And so Nixon visited China and was welcomed to China as a hero, and in Angola, China was sending military aid to fight against the MPLA along with the CIA. And then part of that was that Pol Pot, who was covertly being supported by U.S. imperialism, was also supported by China, right? There were only two governments in the world that recognized Pol Pot, the United States and China. And the Soviet Union was backed by Vietnam, and, Pol Pot invaded and attacked Vietnam, and there was a war that was called the Kampuchea War. It was an awful war. And China was wrong. I mean, I'll just be honest with that. I think China's intervention was not correct. I would encourage you, if you really want to read a very thorough analysis of it, go and read Imperialism and the Crisis in the Socialist Camp by Sam Marcy. You will learn everything you need to know about this. Imperialism and the Crisis in the Socialist Camp. Go and read it, right? And he talks all about it, right? He explains everything about what's going on. Yeah, go and read it, right? China was needing foreign investment from the United States, and they basically attacked Vietnam and backed Pol Pot at the behest of the United States. And it was not good. And it was a disaster. Chinese foreign policy during that period was not good. It was aligning with U.S. imperialism in the name of being anti-Soviet. And I understand why they had to do that. They had been cut off by the Soviet Union. They needed foreign investment, but it wasn't a good move. It was not helpful. So did you see Code Pink disrupt Adam Smith at the Brookings Institute? I didn't, but let me see if I can find the video, because that's awesome. I Code Pink does great work. They do great work. They're anti-war, right? Code Pink disrupt Adam Brookings Let's see if I can find the video. I see something from 10 years ago. Oh, Code Pink. Here's their YouTube channel. Webinar. Code Pink interrupts Adam Smith at Brookings Institution. Okay, here we go. Here we go. It's from 2 days ago. All right, we'll put the video on. We'll watch it. Why the hell not, right? That's what we're on here. We can play clips. That's the great thing about StreamYard, is that we can play clips. So there you go. There you go. I'm parsing the clip as we speak. Hold on. Hold your horses. We'll watch the clip. I have not seen this. I am watching this with virgin eyes, as they say, right? I have never seen this clip. So if this is porn or something, I really doubt Code Pink would do anything pornographic. But, you know, I haven't seen this before. I didn't hear about this, but I'm glad that they disrupted. I'm glad they're sticking up for anti-war stuff. So let's watch it. Let's watch it. Why the hell not, right? Code Pink. All right, video file. Code Pink. Okay, where is it? Come on. Oh, here we go. Code Pink at the Brookings Institution.
Fantastic framing, and let me pick up if I could.
The framing was actually not fantastic. Right now, the two real security threats to the world are nuclear war and the climate crisis. And unfortunately, Congressman, the way that both the Democrats and Republicans have been pushing us in this war in Ukraine, where we definitely condemn Russia, but we need negotiations. If we keep pouring billions and billions of dollars into this war, we're taking us to the brink of a nuclear war. Let's listen to the chair of the Joint Chief of Staff, Mark Milley, who said, seize the moment, go for negotiations. Raise your hand here if you'd like to see negotiations instead of a nuclear war. None of you? Come on, there's got to be somebody.
Actually, I'll take that as the first question, because I think it's a good point.
Well, I was asking the audience that, actually. But I know, and Michael, I know you're a big cheerleader for the Iraq War and for other wars, so you don't really have a lot of legitimacy when it comes to using diplomacy, not war. But I think let's just put it in the context.
So you don't want to hear any sort of discussion? You just want to talk?
I just want to end my point here, which is to say that it's a shame that 30 Democrats who signed a letter to Biden calling for negotiations were so pilloried by people like you in the Democratic Party.
I didn't pillory them at all.
They withdrew their letter after 24 hours. The Democrats have to get back on board of calling for negotiations and not leave that to the extreme right of the Republican Party like Marjorie Taylor Greene. They shouldn't be the ones with the rational voice in all of this calling for negotiations. Democrats have to step forward, have to put the pressure on the Biden administration and say, we need negotiations, not more war.
The real security, real national security is addressing the climate crisis, getting people housed, and not focusing on weapons. We have $880 billion going to war. We need to go to social services.
Well, you know, Medea Benjamin is good at disrupting events, and good for her, you know, good for her for doing that. You know, I mean, someone's got to do it. Somebody's got to say it. You know, and I don't agree with everything she said. I don't agree with her about the climate change stuff, and I don't agree with her condemning Russia, but she's right, you know, calling out the fact that Democrats are more pro-war and, you know, we need negotiations and the danger of nuclear war. Good for her. Good for her. That was great. Thanks for sending the clip. That was a great thing to show on this stream. So there you go. There you go. I'm glad she did that. Good for her. Good for her. Next question. I see you've worked with the Nation of Islam. Do you have any relations with their offshoot, the 5% nation gods on earth? Well, my work with the Nation of Islam, I went to Iran. There was a conference in Iran, the Third New Horizon Conference. I attended both the second and the third New Horizon Conference in Iran. The third New Horizon Conference was dedicated to the Black liberation struggle. And at that conference, a huge delegation from the Nation of Islam attended. Because of that, because of their delegation, we spent a lot of time together, and I got to know Imam Sultan, who's the leader of their mosque in Chicago. I also got to know you know, a number of their members, and I now am quoted pretty frequently. They often will call me for a quotation. They'll call me from the Final Call newspaper, which is, you know, I'm honored to be quoted in a Black revolutionary newspaper. You know, but the New Horizon Conference, was really important. But the person was asking specifically about the black organization, the 5% nation gods on earth. See, I have heard of that because when I was in Cleveland, I did prison solidarity activism. And there was a prisoner, I think his name is Sundiata Acoli, right? He's like a black revolutionary prisoner. And he wrote a pamphlet, and it was a guide to prison gangs and black revolutionary prison organizations. I had never heard of the 5%ers before. But he talked about them in that book. And there's also the Temple of Moorish Science, which is another black revolutionary organization that is similar to the Nation of Islam. So the Nation of Islam, this is what you need to understand. It's actually very fascinating to me. So the Nation of Islam was started by a guy named they call him Master Farad, and his legal name was Wallace Fard. A guy named Wallace Fard. And he started the Nation of Islam. He was a guy, I believe he was white, but he was from the Caribbean. And he lived in Detroit. And in the early 1930s, he started the Nation of Islam. Elijah Muhammad, whose legal name was Elijah Poole. Elijah Muhammad joined the Nation of Islam in Detroit. And it was a small religious group in Detroit. And they had a specific teaching, which was they argue, in Islam, they believe at the end of the world, an angel will visit, and that angel is called the Mehdi, and that angel brings on the end times. Master Farad, or Wallace Fard, he said that he was the Mehdi, and he was sent to bring a message to the black man, that the black man should become the leader, should rise up and take his rightful place as the leader of the human race. And they study the Bible, and they have a unique interpretation of the Bible and a unique interpretation of the Quran. And they argue basically this guy, Wallace Farad, Master Farad was the Mehdi, and he came to tell the black man to become the leader of the world. The story is, I have no idea what happened. But the story is that Elijah Muhammad, one day, he was with Master Farad, and Master Farad said to Elijah Muhammad, he said, my mission, is completed. And he ascended into heaven. And then Elijah Muhammad became the leader of the Nation of Islam. And once Elijah Muhammad became the leader of the Nation of Islam, it started to really rapidly grow, right? It was like Wallace Farad was sent to just kind of lay the foundations and give out the initial teaching. But then Elijah Muhammad was there to really make the organization blossom. And in the 1930s, they grew in huge numbers, and they were the successors to Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey had been the leader of Black nationalism and the Back to Africa movement in the 1920s. And then, he was imprisoned and deported to Jamaica. And then, as Black nationalism was kind of in crisis, Nation of Islam, emerged to kind of be the new current among Black nationalists in America. They were opposed to U.S. involvement in World War II. They were imprisoned. After World War II, they were still in existence. Elijah Muhammad was released from prison, after World War II, and they were still in existence. And they started taking pro-Soviet and anti-imperialist stands. They started aligning with China. They started aligning with the Soviet Union, with Cuba, with other countries. Malcolm X was recruited into the organization out of prison, and he enabled the Nation of Islam to really flourish. Malcolm X eventually, had his falling out and left the organization, but and then Elijah Muhammad was the leader. Then Elijah Muhammad died. Elijah Muhammad's son came into leadership of the Nation of Islam, and Elijah Muhammad's son converted to Sunni Islam, and he shifted the Nation of Islam to being a Sunni organization, and they repudiated a lot of the teachings of the Nation of Islam. They just kind of became regular Sunni Muslims. Louis Farrakhan, he was known as Louis X. Louis Farrakhan, he didn't want to abandon the teachings of the Nation of Islam. He didn't want to become a Sunni. So Louis Farrakhan broke with Elijah Muhammad's son, Wallace Muhammad, And he then, in 1978, he relaunched the Nation of Islam. And that the organization we now call the Nation of Islam is Minister Farrakhan's relaunching of the group after the son of Elijah Muhammad dissolved, switched them to being Sunni Muslims. And this is actually very interesting, around the United States, there are many black mosques. There are many mosques that are attended primarily by African Americans, right? The majority of Muslims in America are black Americans. Did you know this? Many people think when you say Muslim, they think of Arab Americans or Pakistani Americans or Iranian Americans, but actually the majority of Muslims in America are black African Americans, and the reason for that is because of the Nation of Islam. It's fascinating, and all over America there are Sunni mosques that are primarily black. Right, in Cleveland there were like 5 or 6 of them in Cleveland. When I was living there, there were 5 or 6 mosques that were primarily black. And in many urban areas, you have mosques that are Sunni Muslim mosques that are attended primarily by black Americans. The reason for that is those mosques were originally part of the Nation of Islam, and then the Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad's son came in, dissolved it, and it's splintered many different ways. Now, Nation of Islam mosques are different than these Sunni mosques. There's a number of black mosques in all throughout the United States. So it's particularly fascinating to me. But yeah, the 5%ers, so when Elijah Muhammad's, was making the Nation of Islam really, really grow in the 1930s and 40s and 50s, there were a number of other religious groups that were like the Nation of Islam that emerged. I don't know if they were splits or they just kind of emerged at a similar time. The Temple of Moorish Science and the 5%ers, they're not splits from the Nation of Islam. I believe that they just kind of started around the time Nation of Islam was being popular. They had similar beliefs. They drew from Islam and from the Bible. So there you go. All righty. But while we're at it, since we're talking about black nationalism and current ML thinking, so yeah, since we're talking though about this, I really want to show this clip on this stream, because it's not very long. It's 10 minutes, so it's not huge, but I gave a speech at this conference in Iran that was dedicated to the Black freedom struggle, the Third New Horizon Conference. I gave a speech at this conference. This is the speech I gave in Iran, in Tehran, at a hotel in Tehran, at a conference dedicated to Black liberation and the Black freedom struggle. And this speech has been taken out of context. They have one line from this speech they don't like, and they use it to say I'm anti-Semitic, I'm somehow a white supremacist. I'm speaking at a conference dedicated to the Black freedom struggle. And this is what I said. I'm just going to play the whole speech, right? This is my speech that I gave in 2015 in Iran. 10 minutes.
It's really a privilege to be here at this very important conference, and I thank you for giving me a few minutes to just make some brief remarks. It's not enough to simply be against racism or to say that you are against racism. Token anti-racist statements in the modern United States are everywhere. Though Martin Luther King Jr. was shot down and killed for his brave, dedicated work, after his death, he has been reduced to a harmless, patriotic icon. Even though the FBI tried to destroy him, school children throughout the United States are now taught that MLK is proof that the United States is, quote, the greatest nation in the world. Well, the truth is, as most people here are aware, the United States is not a nation. The U.S. is a country, and within its borders are oppressed and oppressor nations. African Americans brought to this country in chains constitute an oppressed nation within U.S. borders. A lot of people in the U.S. like to say they are revolutionaries these days, Bernie Sanders and others. I say you're not a revolutionary unless you recognize that black people constitute a nation, and that as a nation they have the right to self-determination, to choose separation or integration for themselves. Every time I come to this part of the world, I meet so many young people who have a completely delusional portrait of the United States. What young Iranians see on satellite television, this image of the United States as a kind of rich paradise, this image of the United States is completely false. If you watch US media, 90% of the time you're only seeing Southern California or New York City. But the United States is far bigger than that. In the heartland of the United States, what Sarah Palin demagogically called the real America, there are millions of young people who are very unhappy. The US economy has been wrecked by deindustrialization. The steel mills, auto plants, and other good-paying industrial jobs have been eliminated. The public sector in teaching, libraries, post offices, and such has also been gradually eliminated. Young Americans in service sector jobs are stuck in a low-wage economy, making a mere fraction of what their parents made in the much-heralded American middle class that once existed. Young Americans watch the same garbage propaganda that is as what is broadcast into Iran, and they see how Kim Kardashian, the Real Housewives of New Jersey, and other wealthy people on American television live, and they then contrast it with their own lives. The rates of suicide, mental illness, and drug addiction among young Americans are rising. Young people in the United States are told that unless they are rich, they are worthless. And then they look into the future and see that they're going to spend their lives with a much lower income level than their parents and possibly spending it poorer than they expected. U.S. society, born in racism, slavery, and the slaughter of the indigenous people, is now entering a deep political and economic crisis. Now, what's true is not always obvious, but in some instances it is. And this is very obvious. The United States, in which there seems to be another mass shooting every time you turn around, is not a healthy, moral society. It's not a model or an ideal that any country should aspire to become. The most hopeful period in the history of the United States was the direct aftermath of the Civil War. The Civil War was really the Second American Revolution. Abraham Lincoln led a beautiful coalition. It included Christian abolitionists, labor unionists, industrial capitalists, and most importantly, the enslaved African people themselves. When the war broke out, enslaved African people stopped working in a general strike all throughout the South. Harriet Tubman became the first woman to lead U.S. soldiers into battle as she organized guerrilla bands freeing slaves along the Combahee River in South Carolina. The slaveocracy, aligned with the British Empire, was also supported by the Wall Street financial elite. They saw cotton exports from slave plantations as a way to make profits. But Wall Street, the British Empire, and the slave-owning aristocracy was defeated, and they were defeated by an amazing alliance. The Republican Party during the 1860s, far different than what it is today, was a revolutionary party. It took its name from the French Revolution. It represented the small farmers, the African Americans, and the labor unions. After defeating the slave owners, they continued to move ahead as a coalition. And for a brief period in the South, there was even land redistribution, where the land of the slave owners was being redistributed. Calling themselves the populists, the small farmers and free blacks called for public control of railroads, guaranteed education for all, and the overthrow of the monopolists, the wealthy bankers that have so much power. The progressive coalition that came out of the Civil War was broken apart by Wall Street. What did they use to destroy the progressive anti-capitalist mass movement that emerged in the aftermath of the Civil War? They used racism. The Ku Klux Klan used terrorist tactics very similar to what the Israelis are doing, very public, violent acts of terror with brutal violence, forcing the formerly enslaved persons out of political process. U.S. troops were pulled out of the South, and it was handed over to the racists. Since that time, the white people of the United States made a deal with Satan. As the big bankers have plundered the world, using bombs, sanctions, and cruise missiles to beat down those who assert their independence, we went along with it. We waved flags, we were loyal and obedient, and in exchange we got houses, cars, and TVs. We were taught to identify with Wall Street and to look at the people of the world, as well as the black and brown people within the United States, as our enemies. But the devil does not keep his promises. The middle class, the bribe given to white Americans to buy their obedience and loyalty to empire, is gradually being eliminated. The standard of living in the United States is rapidly dropping. The civil liberties often bragged about by U.S. leaders are being stripped away as the U.S. is gradually transitioning to becoming a low-wage police state. The U.S. economy has become centered on destruction. Prisons for profit, police on every corner, empty foreclosed homes, rampant aggression, and war around the world. As we face the ruins of U.S. society, now it is time for white people to change how they see themselves. We need to understand that the satanic cabal of bankers that has committed so many crimes around the world is also our enemy. The people of Iran, Venezuela, Russia, China, Palestine, Yemen, and anywhere else who are standing up and trying to break free from their system of global usury are our friends. A new revolutionary coalition must be forged, an alliance of those within U.S. borders who reject the rule of the globalist bankers and can function almost as a U.S. division of the global, gradually emerging axis of resistance. Every day, the U.S. government provides $18 million to the Israelis as they escalate their genocidal crimes and provocations. A mass people's movement could demand that the money instead be spent on providing health care, education, and jobs for the next generation of youth within the United States. The U.S. currently has thousands of troops stationed in military bases throughout this region. A mass people's movement could demand that instead these soldiers be brought home and put to work rebuilding the crumbling bridges and roads throughout the United States. The United States is currently facing very hard times. However, as has often been said in the past, hard times are fighting times. The moment is approaching when a real people's movement against the racist Wall Street financial elite, their wars, their racism, their police state, and their global system of usury and poverty can broadly expand within U.S. society. Such a people's movement will require unity of political forces, concrete political demands, and a clear vision of an entirely new society on the continent of North America. And as I end, I just wanted to touch on, we're constantly told in the U.S. to think of people who are fighting for their independence around the world as terrorists. But there's a real difference between a revolutionary and a terrorist. If you want to know what a terrorist is, go see the next Hollywood superhero movie. Right? What is the most American movie genres? These ideas of superheroes. What is it? It's a white man usually who thinks the police aren't doing enough. So what does he do? He puts on a mask and he goes out to fight the bad guys with isolated acts of violence. What is this? This is the Ku Klux Klan. That's what that is. That's the mentality that comes out of it. What the Israelis are doing, their violent attacks the settlers are carrying out, what ISIS is doing, what the police of the United States are doing, this is the terrorist method. Extreme acts of violence designed to terrify people. The Supreme Leader Khamenei, when he says that they oppose the crimes of both Daesh and the police of the United States, that they're both the same, he's pointing to the fact that they are both using the terrorist method. But what's a revolutionary? A revolutionary is completely different than a terrorist. If you look at revolutionaries like Imam Khomeini, like Malcolm X, like Eugene Debs, these are people who weren't great because they committed isolated acts of violence and terrified people. They were great because they pushed people forward. They empowered people to do things they never believed that they were capable of doing. That's what the essence of revolutionaries are. The U.S. is facing a crisis, but it's also a time of great opportunity. I think the world is rapidly changing. The rule of the big bankers, the global elite that runs the United States is changing. There's an emerging axis of resistance in the world, and I think we're entering a period of great opportunity for those who seek justice, peace, and equality. Thank you.
As you can see, I was quite nervous, but yeah, that was me speaking in Tehran in 2015. That was my speech. So yeah, there you go. I just thought I'd mention that. This person was asking about, my relationship with the Nation of Islam. Well, it started on that trip. I went with them to Iran, and and I spoke at that conference, and I gave that clip. And they have one little clip of that speech. Where I talk about cabal of bankers, and they're like, aha, see, he means Jews. He's a white supremacist. If you watch that speech, the whole speech is about racism in the United States and the need for white people in America to oppose racism. So that just shows you how dishonest and lying these people are. But there you go. All right. Next question. Leon Rosalon does a song of the Old Communist. I can't figure out if it's pro or anti, but it reminds me of what you're saying about living biologically. Well, you know what? That is a favorite song of mine. It's mixed. I'll give you that, right? But I can't play his version of it because it's gonna be copyrighted. But I'm gonna play. There's another woman who sings it and does a very good job, Nancy Kerr. So I'll put that song on, and I'll tell you what I think of it, John, since you sent a super chat. I'll put that song on because that's a very good song. I really enjoy that song. I really, really do. And it's interesting because it's like I've spent a lot of time with a lot of old communists that are like baby boomer communists. And this is a song about like greatest generation communists from like the 1930s and what they went through. And when I listened to that song, it's a song I've spent a lot of time listening to. So it's parsing right now, but we'll put that song on. We might as well, right? Because it's a good song, and it's, you know, it's about everything we talk about in here. And I think a lot of the people who listen to it don't know what it means, right? It has some pretty, you know, I mean, the lyrics point to some important history. You know, I'm obviously not going to stop the song to talk about that. But, you know, and thank you, Word of Swords, for your super chat. I really do appreciate it. But yeah, we're going to put on Song of the Old Communist. We'll put that on because it's a really important song. It's a really, really important song. I really like it. You know, and I think it's critical, you know what I mean? But it's just kind of speaking to the experience of that first generation, the people who lived through the Russian Revolution, lived through World War II, you know, that experience of people, the Comintern generation, I guess you could say, the Communist International generation. You know, it kind of speaks to what they lived through, you know, and how they felt kind of. So yeah, we'll put that on, John, because that's an important song. It's coming along here. It's coming along. We're going to put it on. So there you go. There you go. There you go. We'll put it on. We'll put it on. All right. And now the file, I'm moving the file to the desktop. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm still waiting for the file to download. But thanks for being here. I'm enjoying. There's no one I'd rather spend my Friday night with than all of you guys. Seriously, I enjoy these streams. I really do. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here, and thanks for all that you do to build our community. So, you know, there you go. There you go. All righty. All right. Let's do it. Here we go. Yeah, we'll play it. It's a good song. It's about, you know, it's about the experience of, you know, of greatest generation communists. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking for it in the wrong place. All right. This is Nancy Kerr performing Leon Rosselin's Song of the Old Communist.
He was one of those dogged old men who live in the past, telling stories you don't want to know about how it was then. The hunger, the hardship, the hopes and struggles of so long ago. And we must have looked bored, for like sparks from the cinders, his eyes glowed with anger, his words seemed to burn. He said, I will be heard, for my life is not over. I have something to say, yet you have something to learn. He said, you who have nothing at all to believe in, you whose motto is money comes first, who are you to tell us that our lives have been wasted and all that we fought for has turned into dust? I was only a lad when we read that in Russia the workers, the Soviets, had taken all power, and the man they called Lenin who led them was our inspiration. His triumph was our finest hour, and I'll always remember how fear shook the wealthy like thieves who have just been caught out in their crime. But we who had known only war and the workhouse rejoiced that a new world was born in that time. You can't know what it meant, and the pride that we felt to know working people, people like us, could shake off the shackles, could topple the palaces, remake the world without ruler or boss. It was this kept us going, this dream of a new world, through all those dark years of defeat and despair, when we who were proud to proclaim ourselves communists fought for a world free from hunger and fear. It was down with the means test, no cuts in our wages, we want £3 a week and a 7-hour day. And there wasn't a thing that we got, but we fought for it. Don't you know bosses give nothing away? And the strikes and the marches and battles to beat off the bailiffs and coppers when hope was still young. Hot heads and hot hearts as we tested our power, the workers triumphant, that was our song. For a time he was silent and lost in his memories. Then, but more softly, his words came again. Perhaps we fought for too much. Perhaps the cost was too much. There are things I know now that I couldn't know then. We believed revolution was just round the corner, and we were the vanguard to bring it about. And the other left parties we classed as class traitors, bourgeois, social fascists, of that we'd no doubt. And then the times changed, we campaigned for the Popular Front. The old line might never have been, but we led the workers in combating fascism, Mosley in London and Franco in Spain. We believed we were history's chosen, and Soviet Russia our future, our heart and our soul. And the 5-year plan was a vision of plenty to us who lived half of our lives on the dole. We knew of the trials and purges, of course, and were shocked when we heard those old comrades confess. But yes, we defended the first worker state in the face of the slander and lies of the press. And you, who have nothing at all to believe in, you whose motto is money comes first, who are you to tell us that our lives have been wasted and all that we fought for has turned into dust? You may think we were duped, well, we paid for our dreams. Broken lives, broken marriages, jobs lost and jail, some lost heart in the left, some betrayed us for medals. There are always some turncoats whose souls are for sale. But the best of us never surrendered our vision, and we kept the faith through the bleakest defeat. Do you think that was easy? Surrounded by hatred, the sneer of indifference, the hurt of deceit, and our lives were made rich by the cause that we fought for, the friendship, the fellowship, sharing one aim, to transform society, end exploitation, and that day will come yet, though not in my time. Again he was silent, and what could we tell him? That the world now was different, that he'd had his day, that an old man's dreams were not our concern, but still there was something he wanted to say. Now when I look back, I see what we fought against: homelessness, hunger, injustice and war. But what did we fight for? What dream did we strive for? I used to know once, now I'm no longer sure. But you, who have nothing at all to believe in, you whose motto is money comes first, who are you to tell us that our lives have been wasted and all that we fought for has turned into dust? He was one of those lonely old men who live in the past, telling stories you don't want to know about how it was then, the hunger, the hardship, the hopes and the struggles of so long ago.
Yeah, no, it's a tremendous song. That was Nancy Kerr performing the Leon Rosalind song. So some of the history people may not be familiar with. So the line about we believed revolution was just round the corner and we were the vanguard to bring it about. And the other left parties we classed as class traitors, bourgeois, social fascists. Of that we had no doubt. That's about the Sixth World Congress, right? They call it the third period from 1928 to 1935. The period of the Sixth World Congress. The line of the Communist International was that the main danger was social democracy. And they were right. At that point, it was, right? Social democracy was the main danger at that point. And so they focused on social Democrats, opposing social Democrats. But then the next part, and then the times changed. We campaigned for the Popular Front. The old line might never have been, but we led the workers in combating fascism, Mosley in London and Franco in Spain, meaning that, in 1935, they had the Seventh World Congress. And then suddenly the line shifted and they were to align with social democrats against fascism. And that was also correct because at that point, Hitler was in power in Germany and there were enough divisions in the ruling class that they could make an alliance, with the social democrats. The social democrats were also facing extermination by the fascists. So they weren't in their anti-communist mode. So the tactics change. The tactics change, no doubt. The situation changes in 24 hours. The tactics must also change in 24 hours. A lot of the stuff later in the song is about, is about, you know, McCarthyism and witch hunts and such. And also, that the Khrushchev secret speech, that secret speech by Khrushchev devastated the world communist movement, and it made a lot of people feel like they had been tricked. You know what I mean? And I mean, there were a lot of people in 1956 after Khrushchev gave that speech and said that everything the mainstream media had said about Stalin was true. That devastated the world communist movement, and it was not helpful. And it shows whenever you do that, right? Did Stalin make mistakes? I'm sure he did. I'm sure Stalin made mistakes. We all know there were a lot of innocent people who didn't belong in gulags who ended up there. There were a lot of innocent people who got executed and shouldn't have been. But that didn't mean that Khrushchev had to get up in front of the entire world and basically just take a dump all over Stalin. And when he did that, that had such a demoralizing effect on the world communist movement. It was painful. I mean, it was devastating. In China, they're very critical of Mao, but they have never done to Mao what Khrushchev did to Stalin, right? They've never done that because they saw, and Deng Xiaoping, he says he saw how devastating it was. And that's what these people don't get, right? And this is, I don't know, I just want to shake people, but it's like you can say, your little grievance, your opportunity to feel special at the expense of the movement is not helpful. You know what I mean? And that theatrically opposing somebody and lining up with the ruling class against them, saying that the ruling class is right. Sure, the ruling class is wrong about Russia. The ruling class is wrong about China. The ruling class is wrong about Cuba. The ruling class is wrong, but they are right about, this country. Or sure, the ruling class is, people do this, right? They have their little personal vendetta, one of these clowns on the internet. I'm not even going to say his name. You know what he's been doing over the last couple of weeks? He's celebrating the death of Qasem Soleimani. All over his Twitter, he loves the fact that Trump murdered Qasem Soleimani. He hates Iran because he has a fetish for Iraq and Saddam Hussein, which, I may be speaking literally there, if you know what I'm saying. And he's on there, and it's like, you can get why this person is such a toxic person. He doesn't get that, like, Iran is aligned with Russia, is aligned with North Korea, is aligned with Cuba, and that Trump murdering the national hero of Iran, he doesn't get that, like, that was a devastating blow to the global forces of resistance, what Trump did. But he just has such a, it's like, well, no, sure, everything the U.S. imperialists say about Russia and China and North Korea is wrong, but Iran bad because Saddam Hussein. It's like Saddam Hussein's dead. He's been dead for years. It's like nowadays Iran is the center of resistance. They are the main backers of resistance in Lebanon. They are the main backers of the Palestinians. They're supporting the people of Yemen. And he's like, no, Iraq is good. Saddam Hussein is good. It's like Saddam Hussein's dead, my friend. Iraq was invaded, and it's like there is the center of anti-imperialist resistance in the Middle East is Iran. No, but Saddam Hussein is good. I can dress up like him. I have a costume. It's like he's a doofus, right? He's a doofus, and he's a wrecker. And of course he's a wrecker, right? Because he can't comprehend that, like, cheering for the U.S. imperialists to murder the leader of the army of an anti-imperialist country is not a good thing because he's a doofus. And that's why, like, in other circumstances, he acts like a doofus because he can't comprehend that, like, there's U.S. imperialism on one side and anti-imperialist forces of resistance on the other, and it's just like, well, yeah, but, like, great example. My favorite example of this was, it was very clear when Shinzo Abe got assassinated. Shinzo Abe is not a good dude, right? He's like a Trump of Japan, right-wing populist, anti-China or whatever. He was out of office, and he was saying stuff about Russia that was not, he wasn't going along with the anti-Russian thing. He was saying, well, maybe China should be the focus. He was talking out of turn when it came to Russia, right? And, for whatever reason, for divisions in the ruling class, whatever, Shinzo Abe was saying, let's not all go all in against Russia. And then he was assassinated. And everyone who's an anti-imperialist immediately said, that has to be, there's more to it than that. Because of the circumstances. Number one, number one, you can't have a gun in Japan. It is illegal to have a firearm in Japan. This guy made his own gun, and he made it so well, he got 2 shots out of it. Does that sound like the work of an amateur? No. If someone's good enough to make their own gun, and the homemade gun they make is good enough they can get 2 shots out of it, holy crap, that's the work of a professional, right? So that, first of all, is a sign that the assassination of Shinzo Abe was, the timing, right when the Ukraine stuff's going. He's saying, well, maybe Russia's not so bad. And then ka-choom, ka-choom, with a homemade gun with 2 barrels on it. Immediately, if you're an anti-imperialist, your mind should go, whoa, what's going on here? But then it gets better. The guy who shot him, why did he shoot him? What was the reason? Well, I was mad that he was associated with the Unification Church because my mother was in the Unification Church. It's like, hold up, wait a second, hold up. Shinzo Abe is not a member of the Unification Church. The Unification Church is a Korean religious group, right? That they have a lot of members in Japan. So this guy is mad that his mother was a member of a Korean religious group, that Shinzo Abe had he did business with them. He spoke at their fundraisers and stuff. What? But then it gets better. It gets better. Because the Unification Church right now is pro-DPRK. Did you know that? The Unification Church has been having rallies all over the world, where they call for continuing the talks on the Korean Peninsula. The Unification Church, does business in North Korea. They actually set up the state-run car industry in North Korea. All right? Reverend Sun Myung Moon met with Kim Il-sung in 1994. The Unification Church is pro. So this guy killed a former prime minister of Japan who was saying pro-Russia things or just not joining it. And the reason he killed him was because he had ties to a group that's friendly to North Korea. And your mind doesn't go, what's going on here? But no, this person that I'm talking about, again, and he's such a doofus. He looks into his camera like, his big eyes. Yeah. And he's like, but he's bad. Shinzo Abe is bad. And he made a whole video about, well, Shinzo Abe is bad. He's bad. So he's bad. It's like he's a doofus. He can't understand how the world actually works, he doesn't have a job. He's never finished a college class, I don't think. He's always taking classes and he never finishes them. And, he's, and he sits there and I don't know well, never mind. But anyway, well, Shinzo Abe is bad. Shinzo Abe is bad. Qasem Soleimani is bad. Anyone who's bad, it's okay to line up with the U.S. ruling class against them because they're bad. Yeah, Shinzo Abe is bad with his big eyes. Is bad. Look at my uniform. Look at my hat, my costume I just made. He's really a piece of work. He's really, really a piece of work. I'll tell you that much. That guy, let me just say this. That guy is whenever a communist, if you're like a hardline communist, thank God I've been married for 9 years now. So, I don't have to worry about this, but if you're a hardline communist, right? If you're like somebody who's, a hardline communist and loves North Korea and loves Cuba and stuff like that, dating can be, a difficult thing, right? Because, and the reason for that, the reason women might not want a guy who's a communist is because they're afraid that he's that, right? They're afraid you're the guy who's sewing his own Saddam Hussein costumes and lives at home and has no job. And, he's bad, man. I sew my own Saddam Hussein costumes. Yeah. They think you're that, you know what I mean? That's why women don't want to date communists. Because they're like, they think of a tanky. They think of some freak who sews his own Saddam Hussein costumes and, and doesn't have a job and can't finish college and, sits at home all day and, and is making videos about why we should celebrate the death of Qasem Soleimani. And, he's a complete joke. He really is. So, he's bad. He's bad. Yeah. He's bad. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I mean, I really wish, you know, he would do us all a favor. And I think, you know, model trains might be something for him. Stop being a communist, right? Some of us take this seriously and try to build real organizations and try to build real communities. He should instead, since he's a freak, you know, and you know, I don't know what, maybe rubber ducks, maybe, you know, maybe get into rubber ducks, maybe make your own rubber ducks out of plastic, or you know, maybe model trains. You know, I mean, model trains would be a great hobby for this guy. You know, if he could get into model trains, he could like set up a little choo-choo train. He could make his own train hat while he makes the model trains. He would never have to leave his home and get away from his mommy. He'd never have to get a job or finish a college class. He could just sit at home and he could wear his train hat and he could make model trains. And those of us who actually believe in this and actually take risks and put our bodies on the line wouldn't be bothered by having a freak like this associated with us, you know? And I will never make the mistake again of trying to promote someone like this, of trying to help someone like this, about encouraging someone like this to speak about things they know about. I won't ever make that mistake again. So there's no danger of that happening. So yeah, I really wish, you know, I'm really hoping that one of these days he develops a fixation for rubber ducks or model trains and does us all a favor and gets out of communism, because this is serious. This is serious. And, you know, some of us are in this for real. And that means we work with people we don't like, and that things go on in organizations that we might not be happy about, and we deal with it. You know what I mean? And we grow up. So yeah, you know, he's not a good person, but it's a lot like the Khrushchev secret speech. Did Stalin do bad things? I'm sure Stalin did bad things. But when Khrushchev did his secret speech, that did so much damage to the world communist movement. You know what I mean? And then people are like, well, you know, oh, no. Stalin's not important. Stalin died. Stalin's not important. He's dead, right? You know, and the Soviet Union, it was good that they disassociated themselves from Stalin. No. And that's what people don't get. Whenever people make excuses, they use this kind of language. Well, Stalin was dead at that point. So what bad could Khrushchev's secret speech do? A lot. Khrushchev's secret speech devastated the global communist movement. This Communist Party USA never recovered. It devastated the Communist Party USA. The French Communist Party, Euro-communism, it gave a huge boost to Trotskyism. All kinds of people who had gone to prison for the Soviet Union, risked their lives for the Soviet Union, felt like, oh my God, now the head of the Soviet Union is telling us that Stalin was just as bad as US media said he was. You know, and that's people that get selfish. People get in this selfish mode where they think that their little complaint, their little grievance, whatever they're mad about is so important. So important. It's just so important, right? These people that were trying to, even these people in PSL, like somebody slept with somebody or what, you know, and this thing that they're mad about is just so important, you know, and that's the individualism. You know, people make mistakes. People do bad things. And it's principled. It's principled, you know. It is principled to handle it in a way that strengthens the movement. If you see a mistake, you should speak up. You see a problem, you should speak up, and you should try to correct it. But if you handle it in a way that's the whole movement, so you feel like you're special, you know, and that's what people are encouraged to do that nowadays, right? You know, young people aren't taught about how to be assertive when they see a problem in an organization and to speak up and say, well, I think you should do this differently. I'm on it. I'll be honest with you. I just think you should. No. It's better to get on the internet and get attention, you know, and that doesn't help anybody. And group after group after group after group after group gets wrecked by this kind of behavior. It wrecked the Workers' World Party. It wrecked the ISO. Its PSL has been, you know, damaged by it, you know, significantly. It's just everyone thinks that that's what they can do. You know, a bunch of people in Party of Communists, they were mad about somebody called somebody's boss or who even knows. And so they hijacked the website and put a manifesto on there. You know, yeah, that's really great. You know, Party of Communists, that helped it, right? You were mad about somebody called somebody or something. So you hacked the party's website and wrote a manifesto on there. So mature, you know, and that's these people who they think they're communists, they think they're revolutionaries, but the idea of like thinking about the big picture and not only their little temper tantrum doesn't occur to them, right? And it's a problem. It's a really, really big problem. So there you go. I just wanted to address that, and the Khrushchev secret speech was devastating. Absolutely. It was devastating. Any popular Western movies that are pro-communist? Good question. I talk a lot about Hollywood movies on here. Like the movie Reds it appears to be pro-communist, but it's subtly anti-communist. It's like an appeal. It's like Hollywood appealing to Euro-communists, right? I mean, there's a lot of movies that I feel like have leftist themes in them. One rant I like to go on, I've made videos about it, is comparing V for Vendetta to Wind That Shakes the Barley. Wind That Shakes the Barley, the politics of the film are absolutely correct, but you feel like crap afterwards. Whereas V for Vendetta, it's kind of liberal, but it's against the neocons and it's against the low-wage police state. And you feel like, you want to go out and fight after you watch V for Vendetta. And, I always feel like that if a movie is really revolutionary, it should, inspire you to like take action. It should leave you feeling pumped up. Go and watch Battleship Potemkin. The movie The Battleship Potemkin, that was a communist propaganda film made in the early 1920s by a filmmaker named Sergei Eisenstein. And it's a silent film, but you are on the edge of your seat the whole time. You're on the edge of your seat the whole time. It's such a great movie. And it's really awesome. And you're on the edge of your seat. It's very exciting and very inspirational. And it's great. The Nazis, apparently they watched it and they were like blown away by how effective it was. It was just a really powerful film. People all over the world saw the Battleship Potemkin and they were like pumped up. Well, the way it makes you feel, the ending scene of it, I don't want to give the ending away. The way it makes you feel, is think about how it affects you. Don't think so much, the politics of the film are pretty good, right? It's about workers and sailors struggling against their bosses and stuff. But think about how it makes you feel, right? When you watch that film, go watch October by Sergei Eisenstein. Go watch Ivan the Terrible. These are kind of ideal films when it comes to how a revolutionary film should be made. All right. And the last super chat I've got is any current ML thinking on preventing the restoration of capitalism? China is talking about that a lot. In China, they've had whole conferences about that. When Xi Jinping became the leader of the Chinese Communist Party, he had every member of the party watch a documentary film about the fall of the Soviet Union. How was it that the Soviet Union could fall without a single shot fired? So, in China, they talk about capitalist restoration, color revolutions, things like that a lot. They are way ahead of the imperialists. They know the imperialists would love to pull off something like that in China and bring down the party. And so they are way ahead. I mean, if you read the publications, read Kui Shi, I think the magazine of the Chinese Communist Party has articles about that. Yeah, I mean, that's an issue that is widely discussed. And how did the Soviet Union fall? And I mean, I feel like the Soviet Union fell because of the synthetic left. Right? They created a faction that appeared friendly to the Soviet Union, but was actually watering down its ideology and importing the new left. And if you look at, Gorbachev and his wing of the Soviet Communist Party were heavily influenced by Western leftism, not by actual Marxism and anti-imperialism, but by Western leftism, Euro-communism, the new left, the Congress for Cultural Freedom. That stuff was, that was a toxin that was imported into the Soviet Union. And it appeared sympathetic to communism, but it was actually toxic, right? It was the new left, and a lot of the younger generation in the Soviet Party were convinced that those people were their friends. The hippies were their friends. The counterculture was their friends. And that the other thing is that the fall of the Soviet Union, right? The fall of the Soviet Union was a political problem. The revisionist wing of the Soviet Party, the Gorbachev wing, had enough power that they could pull that off, that they could throw in the towel and surrender. And you have to understand that. And one of the flaws, I will say, that the Workers' World Party, the Sam Marcy people, the way they would talk about the fall of the Soviet Union is they would just say, oh, well, you know, there was a bureaucracy, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, there were divisions. There were all kinds of political struggles. You know, Stalin was different than Khrushchev. Khrushchev was different than Brezhnev, you know, and that their analysis of the Soviet Union is just kind of like, well, starting from the time Stalin came in, everything was the same, and then the Soviet Union fell. And it's like, no, there were big divisions. And the fall of the Soviet Union happened because the revisionist wing of the Soviet Communist Party got enough power and strength and was well connected enough with Western intelligence that they could crash the Soviet Union. And really, it shows that ideology is really important. I did a great stream with Peter Coffin and his partner. We did a great stream about the fall of the Soviet Union, Agent Thorn and the fall of the USSR or something like that. The fall of the USSR is really, really important to talk about. It's really, really important to talk about why it happened, because, you know, the woke stuff, I mean, that stuff has always been an enemy of communism, and that we need to really kind of rethink politics in our time because things are changing. But on that note, folks, it's been almost 3 hours. I think we're going to end this show for tonight, but we'll be back again soon, hopefully. So, yeah, good night, everybody. In the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today.